Welcome to SicEm365 Radio. SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Tapped around, Thamba got it to Vital, back outside for a three by Butler.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
And as far as getting ready for the NCAA tournament, this was a great experience. So many of our guys had never played in the Big 12 tournament before, and they got a chance to play, see what it's like, get a feel for the arena, get a feel for just how everything's executed. And hopefully this comes to really help us come NCAA tournament time.
Have you downloaded the SicEm365 Radio app? Do it today on the App Store and Google Play.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. Yet another, the day after Craig Smoak's birthday. We'll say that throughout the week. Wednesday will be 2 days after Craig. Did you eat all that chocolate?
No, I did not. I had a little bit of it, but no, there's still quite a bit left, and I'm going to need it because I'm tired.
Yeah, Craig, of course, coming off the battle. With the battle with COVID from a week or two ago or so. Paul Catalina, could you eat that much? You saw that cake. That was full. That's yellow cake with chocolate icing.
And a cookie cake.
Yeah, and a cookie cake.
I actually had more. I really haven't dipped into the chocolate cake yet. I actually have that in my fridge because I kind of like my cake a little bit cold. Mm-hmm. But I have had some of the cookie cake, and that's like the real cookie cake. That's the American Cookie Cake Company, not the the knockoffs. They're fine. It's a chocolate chip, but there is something different about the American company that's
as we were
better.
Packing up, I had gotten everybody some P.F. Chang's. I had ordered on the DoorDash, whatever, and so I got a little bit of that with Craig's birthday. And
you single-handedly kept them in business in Waco, too.
No, I did.
I don't know how well they're doing outside of you, but you have kept them in business.
I can tell you, if you had just told me, like, Paul, your job is to eat this cake, there would be a Paul-shaped hole in that window.
Yeah.
I'd be like chasing cars down the street.
I mean, I would be, it'd be like a dog on whatever they, catnip, like for a cat. So we did that and appreciate all of, Craig got a lot of well wishes online and everything else. So that's over. So now you got 364 days until we do that again. But it's nice that you got a birthday cake because you didn't get one last year. Yep. All we got last year this week is that we all found out that we were looking for a new job.
Hey,
I'm going to celebrate the living hell out of Thursday. We are absolutely going full throttle, balloons, maybe a live band, possibly a wet bar. Or something like that.
What's that, April 6th?
No, March 18th.
March 18th?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, April 6th, another level. All right.
Yeah.
We have really excited. I hope you are too about our guest lineup. We're going to hear from Scott Drew and Davion Mitchell, fresh from Indianapolis today. We'll hear about Kim Mulkey and the seeding with the women's tournament. I got a little gripe with the All-American team that SI.com released. I don't know what the infatuation is with Charlie Collier. I just don't get it. Especially since Baylor just I almost said the word, just destroyed her in 3 matchups this year, and where Nalissa Smith was on the All-American team. And there's a lot of them, just like the Baylor guys. Great news for them today, all 3 of Butler, Mitchell, and also Teague. But today, John Feinstein, this is a great writer. He's written book after book, sports book, A Good Walk Spoiled. He's talked about a book about Q School. He's written tons of books. He's also, this is one that's like, I don't know, actually, I didn't realize he had written this one. It's Rocco Mediate and Tiger Woods in the U.S. Open in 2008 at, Torrey Pines, when Tiger won basically on a broken leg. And remember the putt he hit on 18 on Sunday to force it over an extra round. Are you kidding me? I bought this when I was looking up some things on John Feinstein. I bought it, came in the mail today. So that's another one. But he put up a tweet over the weekend. He said, don't tell me about how many quad 1 wins people have or quad 2. Just let my eyeballs pick the tournament. It's kind of the old school way. He'll be on today at 3:30. Len Elmore, he was a hell of a player at Maryland. He's an attorney. Very distinguished man. He works for the Big Ten Network. Long time, 25 years, college analyst for CBS Sports, worked for ESPN for a while as well. He will join us today at 4. Also, Mac Rhodes at 4:20. David Woods of Indianapolis Star on what they're getting ready for, what they're dealing with this week in the next 3 weeks at Indy. Also, David Hellman, Michelle Vopel on the women's tournament, and then John McClain today. He will join us at 5:35 from the Houston Chronicle.
Just a ton of huge Cowboys free agency news. They got a new long snapper, a 35-year-old swing tackle.
They re-signed a corner, got rid of one.
They re-signed their 5th corner.
Yeah.
I mean, big moves.
And they got an offensive lineman who's not bad, though. Pretty good player. Now, and the best free agent news might have been Washington with maybe a very more than just manageable quarterback. So we'll get into that. Gonzaga and Baylor dominate the AP men's All-American teams. Jared Butler, first team. Cade Cunningham, first team. Corey Kispert of Gonzaga. Luka Garza, and also Ayu DeSumo from Illinois. All the names you would expect in the first team. Third team is Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague, honorable mention. This is the All-American. Gonzaga had 2 players on the second team as well, with Drew Timme and Jalen Suggs, who's a freshman, who makes them go. Houston's Quentin Grimes was the third team selection, so that's that as well. Now, Scott Drew and Baylor. This has been the theme. If we had a theme this week, practice, practice, practice. Is that the theme?
Yep.
Practice, practice, practice. Work on us. They are talking about themselves. Get back to the fundamentals. You hear teams even do this in football when they have time to get ready for a bowl game. They have the extra practices, which are also good for the young players who aren't playing much. Practice. Get ready. Get back to the fundamentals, the rotations, and all of that. Scott Drew today continued that theme from Indianapolis about practice.
And one thing one of our coaches put together was in our 14 days back, we played 6 games, 4 of them on the road, 2 of them at home, traveled about 3,500 miles, 9 of 14 days on the road. So when you're just prepping, you really don't get a chance to practice anything. And I know defensively, our defense since the pause hadn't been what we'd want it to be. And that's to no one's blame. We just haven't had a chance to practice. Very similar to if you only shoot 1 day in 3 weeks, your shooting's probably not going to be on. So it was great to be able to get after it, get better. And we have such a mature group. When you show them things on film, they want to learn, they want to get better, but there's no substitute for actually being on the court and practicing and repping stuff. So hopefully our rotations will be a lot tighter. Our defense will be a lot more in sync like it was prior to the pause when we were really flying around and doing a great job.
Now, one of the things he mentioned, not only with what we said practice, rotations, marked vital. Remember on Friday evening after the loss to Oklahoma State, he hammered away at that as well, both on offense and defense. And you could see that they weren't. There was a video that was put out earlier that back in the early part of the year, I think this would have been in January when Baylor was rolling before the pause, was their rotations on defense. It almost looked like everybody it was almost like it was something that was like God made, like almost just perfect rotations, always somebody doing what they're supposed to do. We'll skip over Scott on the individual matchups or whatever. Davion Mitchell, and he was asked about the team chemistry. Have they lost any of that? And just about how well and how tight this team is.
Right. I think that just comes from chemistry. I mean, just off the court. We want to see one another do great. I mean, I feel like and we all knew we had to sacrifice just because we knew how all good we can be. I mean, we know each one of us can score 20 any night. But, I mean, that's what makes our team great. I mean, everyone had to sacrifice something. And I think that those guys, Jared and Maceo, did a really good job sacrificing. I mean, Maceo played point guard at Asheville, and he had the ball the whole time. But he never complained here. I mean, he does a really good job at his role. I mean, he scores the ball, plays defense, and he's a really good leader. And as for Jared, I mean, he definitely can score 25 every night. I mean, he can really score the ball. He can create his shot anytime he wants, but you know that to be great, you can't do it all by yourself. I mean, you got to be a team, and he definitely did a really good job sacrificing that.
Was there one moment where you realized the three of you guys were going to be able to maybe have the success together that you're having right now?
For sure. I mean, after I would say the Villanova game, when we won that game, I knew that we definitely can do some things just because everybody had a good game. I mean, nobody had like that breakout game, like 27 points or something like that, and then somebody had 2. It was just like everyone contributed. I mean, Jared took over at the end, but at the beginning it was Maceo, and then sometimes it was me defensively. So I knew that we were going to be able to be great.
That's Davion Mitchell. He was named a third-team All-American. Jared Butler, first team, and Maceo T was honorable mention All-American. They keep advancing. Even with the Lady Bears, who we know will most always go into the Elite Eight, and we know. And then there's been a couple of times when they got knocked out early, shockingly by Louisville and Oregon State.
The reason that we watch sports most of the time is because
we don't know what's going to happen.
It's unpredictable.
Right? Yeah.
So, and even though some things are more predictable than others, there's still, it's not 100% that anything is ever going to happen in sports.
Yeah, I agree.
And so even if it's 99%, you're still going to watch because the fact that even if something is 99%, a lot of times people watch because the 1% thing that could happen would be so wild, you'd have to see it.
Craig, if there were gimmies, then we would never known about Bryce Drew and the shot from Valpo, right? Which we may have never then known much about Valpo, even though they were pretty successful. George Mason's run. Georgia State, I know that's a scar, but it's true. Or a lot of the other buzzer beaters. That's why we watch. That's why I love sports.
Yeah, that's only really for me on the men's side, though. Like on the women's side, I think, you can go ahead and say Baylor's going to at least a Sweet 16. In the men's tournament, I'm pretty much as close as I can possibly get to saying they're at least going to the round of 32. But beyond that, I can't really say that I'm totally confident in them beating North Carolina or Wisconsin right now. I can't do that. I don't even know who the Lady Bears second round opponent is, but I'm pretty confident they're going to beat them. There's a difference. And the difference in part is that the Lady Bears, in their worst years, it's a Sweet 16 trip. In their worst years, it's a Sweet 16, right? And the men, Sweet 16 is like a big year. It's like, hey, we made the Sweet 16. For the women, it's like, you just started it. So there's a little bit of a different thing there, but I mean, I'm pretty close. I'm as close as you can possibly be to guaranteeing victory without actually doing it. I feel really confident about them beating Hartford. I have no worries about that. But after that, I really have no idea what to expect.
We'll hear from Kim Mulkey at around 3:45 or 3:50 on the seeding yesterday. One thing of interest, Baylor's in the same region with UConn. We know that. There's a chance they could play if things were to move. They got Tennessee at the at the upper part of their half of the region that they're in, the Riverwalk, all of the San Antonio names. But they'll play either Marquette or Virginia Tech round 2. Michigan has Toya Wilson, a former Baylor assistant coach, on that. As, I thought they were. Maybe I'm wrong. Georgia, I guess they're not. The number 2 seed, Maryland, is in South Carolina. A&M is in NC State's region. Now, Carlton Buckles has been promoted new defensive passing game coordinator at Tulsa and cornerbacks coach. He once, of course, was at Baylor. I already mentioned Collier, right?
Yep.
Troy has a new coach from Comanche High School, Stephen Hermsmeyer.
You kind of mentioned Collier, but you didn't really talk about it like you said you were
she was named first-team All-American. Good for her. I'm always of the rule. If you don't like who made it, then give me somebody else. Nalissa Smith was dominant this year. Player of the year in the Big 12. First-team All-Americans from UConn, Louisville, Michigan. Also from, I can't even remember who else is a part of this. But Charlie Collier, Baylor dominated her all 3 games. And yet she's going to be maybe the first pick of the WNBA draft. That is lazy voting.
Well,
yes, put me on record. That's lazy voting because Nalissa Smith dominated her every time they met, as did Baylor, no matter the numbers she put up against North Texas.
Well, it's Sports Illustrated in name only these days, and while they may have a couple of quality writers still around, I'd want to know who actually voted on that All-American team because it could very well be like, in all due respect, interns, voting for those teams at this point. Now, if it's Michelle Vopel and it's, people like that, then that's one thing. But just across the board, and somehow the Heisman Trophy's managed to avoid this while every other award seems to thrive on, let's pick the guy who's going to be the best pro or the girl who's going to be the best pro. And the Heisman's the only one has never really given into that because otherwise maybe you would have had like
Well, Adrian Peterson would have won it.
Maybe, but that was Leinart and Bush, and those guys are all kind of on the same level. But I know what you mean. So yeah,
everyone looks at points when it comes to All-American.
And Dominican Sue would have won it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the best pro out of that whole group.
Yeah, and probably should have won it, but for some reason with like these college awards, I just see far too many people getting voted in based off of what they're expected to do after college or what they did even before college. It's like, oh, well, he was a high-ranked recruit. He played average. Let's put him on the third team. It's like, why? I don't know. I have my issues with team selection sometimes, and it's none more so than like last week when you mentioned the Big 12 team with like 8 first-teamers on it.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, also, they had 10 first teams on the win.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Not 10 people on a team. Like, that is ridiculous.
Iowa State's Ashley Jones also was, by the way, a second-team All-American. Melissa was third.
By the way, Iowa State men let go of Steve Prohm today.
I saw that. It was last night, actually, yeah. All right, Ty Neschke, right, Paul? Played with Buffalo, offensive lineman, also was with Washington, signed with the Cowboys, a 1-year deal, trying to get some depth in the offensive line. Also, Cowboys signed C.J. Goodwin to a 2-year deal. That's an extension. He was a part of them anyway. He's their best corner.
No. I mean, he's their best special team.
I'm trying to put icing on the cake.
He's their best special teamer. I mean, it's good that they kept him. They have a new long snapper,
not a big money. Yeah, 2 years for nearly $4 million. Yeah. Cheeto Awuzie, who I thought was going to be fantastic in the NFL from Colorado.
Still might, but
Cincinnati has signed him to a 3-year contract. And Washington may have gotten the best, I don't know. I didn't even know this till I got moving this morning. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's pretty good. He can be a pick machine. He's going to run Ron Rivera's offense with that competition with
Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, him.
You kind of need to learn his name at this point because he's going to be competing for the starting job of your favorite team.
I know, and he was fantastic down the stretch. He played incredibly well in that playoff game against the Patriots.
Well, I like Ryan Fitzpatrick better than going and trading for Sam Darnold and hoping that
giving things up, yeah.
So, I mean, you just signed Ryan Fitzpatrick on a cheap deal. It's not like he's going to be there past probably next season. He's very well liked everywhere he's been. He's been everywhere, really, at this point. I think he's played for like 12 different teams at this stage in his career, but he's been well liked in half the league. And he's fine. He's not great. He's not terrible. He's fine. And sometimes he can be above average. And he can, win some. I don't know how many games he's going to go win himself, but he can help you not lose games, I guess I should say, more so than maybe a younger quarterback might. So, I mean, as far as like a bridge, I'm cool with this. That's what I think it is, too. I think it's a bridge until they draft whoever they draft in April, and then there will be that quarterback competition.
And look, they're in a weird spot in the draft in that they could get kind of iced out of all the elite quarterbacks.
Yep.
So you have to get a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick who can maybe help Taylor Heineke along. And if you don't get one of the top quarterbacks, then you can go, okay, well, there's always next year.
I'm kind of happy with that. That's a 1-year deal. It's safe. He plays well. That's great. He makes more money, and they have somebody that runs the offense along with Heineke. Now, Hunter Henry from the Chargers signs a 3-year deal. Patriots are doubling down a lot of money. They had 2 tight ends in the last couple of days, spent almost $100 million or more.
The top 2 tight ends on the market. They also brought in Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith. Well, no, he's a wide receiver. Jonnu Smith's the other tight end. Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, wide receiver.
And Aguilar's played with Philly at one point.
He was with Las Vegas last year.
Bourne has a movie, 3 of them.
No, there's like 5 of them. But Kendrick Bourne was at the 49ers, and they have young wide receivers. So
they spent a lot of money.
They did.
That's a lot of money. The one that tied in yesterday, and I like this Hunter Henry. He's pretty good, too. Jennifer had him on her fantasy team, drove her crazy. Ty Neschke, by the way, guess who he's played with? The Corpus Christi Sharks, the Dallas Vigilantes, the Philadelphia Soul, the San Antonio Talons, Montreal Alouettes, the Los Angeles Kiss, and in between a practice squad conversation with Colts, Saints, Washington, and also played 4 years with the Redskins, the last 2 with Buffalo. So he's a pretty damn good story. I like the story. I like guys like that. They're just resilient as he could possibly be.
Yeah, he's 35. They need a swing tackle that can be steady. They haven't really had that. They probably need to draft somebody who can do that as well. But, they had Terrence Steele and Brandon Knight on the roster, and I don't think that's really raised anybody's flag as far as what happens, because you saw them play the majority of the year at tackle and wasn't great.
He's been very active. He's got a couple of things, social media, got caught up in a controversy, Nesky did. He responded to a tweet written by Morgan Reed and retweeted by actor and model Daniel Bostic. Nesky follows, hard to believe that a player in a helmet defending a football makes more money than a soldier in a helmet defending his country. It doesn't take much skill to kill someone.
I'm so confused. Who said that? He said that, or somebody else said that?
No. Hard to believe that a player in a helmet defending a football makes more money than a soldier in a helmet defending his country was what Daniel Bostic and Morgan Reed. And Nesky's response, it doesn't take much skill to kill someone. That didn't go over very well.
Oh, I wonder why.
But he has gotten involved with the Dallas police officers and their families, got heavily involved after that shooting back in 2016. So he seemed to be a pretty good story and has learned along the way as well. So good for him. All right, so the Cowboys signed him. Spent a lot of time on a guy that has bounced around quite a bit. Good luck for him. John Feinstein will join us at 3:30. Paul, you ever written any? Have you ever read any of his books?
I know that I have. It's just one of those things where he's written so many. I know that I have.
Tales from Q School, which is an amazing book. The Last Dance, not the Chicago. This is about the Final Four.
I've read Let Me Tell You a Story.
Let Me Tell You a Story with Red Auerbach.
Yeah.
He also, A Good Walk Spoiled, which is about the PGA Tour and the pressures of it. The Civil War, Army versus Navy.
I read Running Mates.
There's
a long time ago.
Also, this one, Season on a Brink, about Indiana and Bob Knight back in the 80s. So those are some of the books. He's written books about Dean Smith, Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Valvano, among many others. And then the book, it's on the table here, about Rocco Mediate going head-to-head with Tiger in the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines in 2008. All right, so Baylor men, your thoughts, John Feinstein, next. 254-339-1122. As always, Scotty B right there with us, 254-339-1122. After hearing the last 2 days, what Jerome Tang gave us some magic yesterday as they were boarding the flight about practice. They had two great...
Middle of the week, that's all you, and working on those things, it's going to throw you off. Yeah, you're going to look different.
Yeah, I'm not trying to overanalyze this team too much. I just take them at their word that practice is what they needed, and they've got it now. They've got what they needed to get as far as, some practice time and a little bit of a break. So it's on them now. Nothing I'm going to say is going to change how they go out and play later this week, and nothing I feel emotionally is going to affect them in any way, shape, or form. So, we all just got to sit back and see. But certainly they answered the questions as best they could, and now it's just go out and do what you're on scholarship to go do. Are getting paid to do. If you're the coaching staff, just go out and play basketball. And I don't know why. And we kind of had it described yesterday, kind of how they went from the low of the break to the high of 3 Big 12 top 25 wins and a title to the low of a quick exit in the Big 12 tournament. So maybe it's time for a high again. And it'll have to be, because if not, if it's another low, then they're going to be out of the tournament quick. And, regardless of the Big 12 title and all of that, they've had a great year, but there are standards. And, anything that's not, Sweet 16 or beyond is not, it's not success. It's not at the end of the day. So they better be geared up, and they seem to be, and we'll see.
I agree. I absolutely agree. The standard is not anything other than playing in the Sweet 16. And in men's basketball, that is not like women when Final Fours are rattled off by a lot of them. That doesn't mean it's easy to get to, because Baylor's had theirs fall short before.
And I know some will say that they should be at least Elite 8 just because of their seeding and because of the year they've had and because of the team they put together. And I'm not going to go that far and say it's Elite 8 or bust, but, I can understand the angle of somebody who might feel that way because it's that special type of year. But yeah, at least the Sweet 16. Yeah.
When we come back, he's an author, he's a sports broadcaster, commentator, he's also a sports writer. He's written some great books. He's also seen it all. It comes to sports. John Feinstein, next on SicEm365 Radio. If you like to smoke cigars, Don's Humidor can help you out. Don's Humidor with Carol and Ashley in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. They have a 48-foot walk-in humidor, loaded from the top shelf all the way down to the bottom with elite brands of cigars. There's a list that I can go online. I have copy in front of me, bullet points. I don't need that. Macanudo, Cohiba, Padron, Rocky Patel, Arturo Fuente, on and on. A great cigar, the Cuatro Nicaragua, one of the great cigars, one of the number one cigar in the world inside their walk-in humidor. And then also, by the way, I have coffee beans. I'm not a coffee drinker, but if you are and you haven't been there, you owe it to yourself to go look at what they have. Their assortment, the array of aroma and flavors of coffee beans, fresh coffee beans as well. And on top of that, CBD products, if you're interested, including VitaDreams, that can help you perhaps get a better night's sleep than you're normally getting. Tossing and turning. You take a little bit of a gummy, and next thing you know, you've had a nice, restful sleep like you may not have had in a long, long time. Ask Carol and Ashley about those as well. It's Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Qualified buyer, see dealer for details. The anniversary sales event is happening now at Richard Carr. 22 years in Central Texas is worth celebrating with big savings on all cars and trucks. Savings like $3,500 off a 2021 Buick Envision or Buick Encore GX. Save $6,000 off a 2021 Buick Enclave. Save $6,500 off a 2021 GMC Train or GMC Acadia. Come by for prize giveaways and deep anniversary discounts on every car or truck on the lot. It's the anniversary sales event going on now at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is SicEm365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I have followed the career of John Feinstein, American sports writer, author, sports commentator. He's been on various special events when it comes to sports coverage. Also written 42 books, including A Season on the Brink, the one about Indiana basketball and Bob Knight. One of my favorite was A Good Walk Spoiled, about a year on the PGA Tour. And then also one about Q School, which is about as pressure-packed as you could possibly get to get your card on the PGA Tour. Things have changed a little bit there. John Feinstein again joins us on SicEm365 Radio. And I told John, first of all, thank you so much. Great to have you on the show. I saw your tweet about, 3 or 4 days ago. Don't tell me about quad one wins or whatever. Just let me look at who's playing well and let me pick the bracket. Has it gotten too analytical in some ways?
Oh, yeah, but it's not unique to college basketball. I mean, look what happened in the World Series last year with Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell in Game 6 when the Dodgers themselves said later they couldn't touch him. And he was relying on analytics. Now, I'm not saying analytics shouldn't exist. I understand they can have a role. I understand they can help analyze. But ultimately, you've got to be good enough to make decisions based on your knowledge of the sport, your knowledge of the game. A manager isn't paid to read analytics. I mean, I can read analytics. You can read analytics and make decisions off them. The manager's paid to know his players, to know the opponent, to know when a gut feeling is right or wrong. My problem with the NCAA basketball committee, and this has existed for years and years, long before they even started using analytics, is none of them are basketball coaches. They're all athletic directors and commissioners, by rule, by the way. You have to be an athletic director or a commissioner to be on the committee. And most of them, now in the old days, you did have coaches on the committee. You had Dave Gavitt on the committee. You had Terry Holland on the committee. You had Vic Bubas on the committee, guys who'd been great coaches. And now you got a bunch of guys who are basically fundraisers who went to business school. And so that's why they rely so heavily on analytics and quad one wins and what the net is or whatever. Colgate was number 8 in the net. So if the net's so important, why weren't they a number 2 seed as opposed to being a number 13 seed or 14 seed actually? So, and I'm not saying they should have been a number 2 seed because I saw Colgate play a lot this year. I think they're very good. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Arkansas. But the fact is, you got to be, they always say, well, we rely on the eye test. The problem is the eyes don't know that much about basketball. The NIT committee has 4 ex-coaches on it. Why shouldn't the NCAA committee have 4 ex-coaches on it, or 5 or 6 or whatever?
Are you saying that football, maybe even as much controversy as that has it maybe more right?
Well, it's easier in football. You don't have to pick 68 teams. Mm-hmm. You only have to pick 4. Basically, every year football comes down to who's going to be number 4 and who's going to be number 5. Usually the first 3 are pretty obvious, and it doesn't matter who's 2 or 3 because they're going to play each other anyway. And there's no home field or home court involved. It's an easier decision. Now, Bill Hancock, who runs the college football playoff, is a longtime friend of mine. And one of the first things he did was put a media member on the committee. 1 out of 13 people. But they get it right more often than the basketball committee does, but the basketball committee's job is much harder.
You had a note, this was on Sunday, and we had John Gallagher at Hartford on our show yesterday, and he was absolutely fantastic.
Gal can talk.
Oh, my goodness. We could have gone. In fact, we tried to say, okay, I know you got to go. No, I got nothing to do. He's sitting in his room. But he also made the same point you did, John, because Baylor starts off with Hartford. Baylor bears number 2 overall seed, about the MAC compared to the America East with what Hartford came out of. And you mentioned that the MAC is very weak and that Iona, because of Rick Pitino, of course, they're going to try to maybe place them somewhere that's a little bit different.
Give them a more winnable game. Keep them away from a 1 seed. I mean, Alabama's very good. as a 2 seed. But TV has a lot more control than the committee would let you know. I mean, for example, if Loyola Chicago beats Wichita State, who do they play? Illinois. Wow. Gee, isn't that a wonderful matchup? Loyola versus Illinois. You see that kind of stuff happen all the time, where they pick matchups, try to set matchups that will be good for TV. Look, TV pays them a lot of money. I understand that. Just don't sit there and say, oh, no, it had nothing to do with television. And the fact is, I do America East games on television, so I see the league a lot. And I don't do MAC games on TV, but I do watch them, and I do know the league, and I'm familiar with a lot of the coaches in the league. And the MAC's been down for about the last 5 years. It's just not as good a league as it's been. It's cyclical. But for Hartford to be seated behind Iona is just ridiculous. And the other part of it is, it isn't just because of Patino and television, although that's part of it. But the other part of it is the committee doesn't pay that much attention to the lower seeds. Again, going back to when there were coaches on the committee, there was a specific subcommittee whose job was to seed the teams from the one-bid conferences to make sure they were treated fairly. That's why years ago, Princeton was a number 4 seed one year, because they were that good. And they lost a very close game in the second round to 5th-seeded Michigan State, which went on to the Final Four. But nowadays, they just go, oh, yeah, well, Iona's a good TV team. We'll make them a 15, and we'll make Hartford a 16, and who cares? Because, other than the folks at Hartford and people like me, nobody does care much. They're going to be a lot more focused, understandably, on Baylor, on Gonzaga, on Michigan, on Illinois.
John, I've asked a lot of college basketball analysts that we've had on the show this question because I'm just curious if maybe we're seeing a trend that's going to stay or just part of a short cycle. The one-and-done teams are having a hard time really maintaining, and now you throw in COVID and a year off and everything that everybody had to do, and the veteran teams like Baylor, like Gonzaga, Michigan's got a veteran team. The guys who have been there are the teams that are the number 1 seeds and are the favorites. Are we seeing a shift back to that in college basketball, or do you think that's a temporary thing?
No, I think it's first of all, I think one and done is going to go away when the NBA's next CBA is negotiated a year from now. I think you'll see it become like the old days, where if you're LeBron James or you're Kevin Garnett or somebody and you want to come straight out of high school and go in the NBA, you can. Or if you want to go get paid to play in the G League, which they're already doing, you can. And I think they'll say, if you sign up for college, you got to stay at least 2 years. Now, I think they should go with the baseball rule and make it at least 3 years if you accept a Division I scholarship. But I think it'll probably be 2. But I think the trend you're talking about has existed for a while, that it's been going that way for a while. It should be noted that only one pure one-and-done team, in other words, a team dominated by freshmen who were going to leave, that won a national championship was Kentucky in 2012. Now, Duke won a national championship in 2015 with 3 freshmen who left after 1 year. But that team doesn't win without Quinn Cook, who was a senior, without Marshall Plumlee, who was a senior, without Emil Jefferson, who was a 5th-year senior. So the one-and-done thing, I think, was always a little overrated in terms of making teams good teams. And it might have gotten a lot of attention for John Calipari and then for Mike Krzyzewski, Bill Self at Kansas, a few other programs, but not many. And now what I think has happened is, you're right, that the veteran teams are the teams that are more likely to win the national championship. Look at the most recent national champions. Virginia was a veteran team. They were built on juniors and seniors. Villanova was certainly a veteran team. They did have one kid who left after his sophomore year. North Carolina was a veteran team. Villanova, again, veteran team. So I think the pattern's been going in that direction for a while. And what I think happened to Duke and Kentucky this year, who were sort of the blue bloods of the one-and-dones, is because of all the lost time. Krzyzewski and Calipari are great coaches. They're not in the Hall of Fame by accident. But because they didn't get to spend time with their freshmen in the summer, and there was virtually no preseason. In the case of Duke, they only played 4 pre-conference games. I think all that time when those guys would have been coaching their freshmen up was lost. And as a result, the freshmen in January, February were where they would normally have been in maybe November, and that hurt them both.
John, you watched Hartford, and they play Baylor, and Baylor obviously was on a roll. They had the pause, and they're still trying to kind of find themselves, and they won the Big 12 title. But they have some great defensive players in Davion Mitchell, obviously with Mark Vidal and others. But Tracy Carter, and Coach Gallagher mentioned this, is he thinks he's the best defensive guard in the country. Did you say much about what you saw with him?
Well, I'll tell you what, you better be careful with the basketball when Tracy Carter's around, because he averages close to 4 steals a game, and creates deflections and things like that. He's been in college for about 22 years, I think. He's transferred a couple times. He got an extra year because of an injury. He might even be able to come back next year. With the COVID rules, he might be playing in college when he's 30, but he's a really good player, and very smart player. Experienced player, obviously, certainly can mess up an offense. I think the way Baylor plays, the way they get out on offense whenever they can, it's going to be hard for Hartford to slow the pace down, which they have to do to have any chance of winning. They held a very good offensive UMass Lowell team to 50 points in the championship game. A week earlier against UMBC, a good defensive team, UMass Lowell scored 79, and they had one kid hit 9 threes. So Hartford is a very good defensive team if they can keep it a half-court game. I would be surprised if they can keep it a half-court game for 40 minutes.
I have a book here on the set, Rocco Mediate and John Feinstein. Are you kidding me? The story of Mediate, the battle with Tiger in 2008, which forever and ever was Tiger's last major until the Masters 2 years ago. You've written 40-plus books, A Good Walk Spoiled, obviously Season on the Brink. Do these just come to you? Is there a list? You have a wish list like an AD would if a football coach is going to leave? How do you come about these things?
Well, let me say, first of all, that the title of Are You Kidding Me? And what Rocco and I really wanted to do was have a word between you and kidding. Because that really did sum up the way Rocco felt about that U.S. Open. But it's not like I sit around with a wish list. There are people in my mind who I think someday maybe I'd like to write a book about them. But it's far more random than that. I wish I could say there was some science to it. I'm working on a book right now on race and sports. And honestly, the way I came to that idea was watching the anthem protests in 2017. African-American players kneeling, white fans booing. And it occurred to me that we whether we want to admit it or not, race has been the elephant in the room in sports and in our society for a long, long time. We saw it in society with what happened with George Floyd on May 25th of last year and the reaction to that, and it's still ongoing, of course. So sometimes it is literally that random. I was working on a book on playing quarterback in the NFL, and I was at a game between the Ravens and Steelers the week after President Trump's rant about fire the SOBs and all that. And what the Ravens did, because they got together as a team and said, okay, how do we handle this? They got together, all 45 guys in uniform, black and white, and took a knee before the anthem began. And then when the anthem began, they stood up and held hands, while the anthem was being played. There's 70,000 people in the stadium. It felt to me like 65,000 of them were booing their team. And I sat there and said, wow, we are really divided here, even in sports, which frequently is ahead of the curve in terms of race relations. So that's how that idea came about. The idea to do Season on the Brink came about because I wrote a piece in the Washington Post on Bob Knight right after he threw the chair, and he called me, thanked me for telling both sides of the story in the Washington Post piece, and invited me to a dinner that he went to with his coaches at the Final Four every year, with his former coaches and current coaches. And I thought, wow, he's inviting me into the inner circle. Maybe I could get him to let me do it for a year. And of course I did. So there's absolutely no science to it. I wish there was.
Have you ever gotten down the road with something? I have a friend who was trying to write a screenplay, got down the road and just couldn't crack it. It wasn't interesting anymore. You have to move it on or roll it into another project.
My problem wasn't that it wasn't interesting, but in 1994, I started a book in which I wanted to follow a season with an NBA coach, a college coach, and a high school coach. And Larry Brown was my NBA coach. He was coaching the Pacers at the time. And he had agreed to give me complete access, and the season began, and I was on a road trip with the Pacers in Los Angeles, or in Seattle, actually. And Larry got ejected from the game. And I'd always wondered, what does the coach do when he gets ejected? So rather than stay there, I went into the locker room with Larry and just hung out with him the rest of the game. The next day, we flew to Los Angeles, the team did. I got a call from Donnie Walsh, the general manager, and he said, were you in the locker room? And I said, yeah, Donnie, you and I discussed this last summer. Donnie Walsh had specifically said, so you're asking for season on the brink access? And I said, yes. And he said, well, you can't be in the locker room. And I thought he was saying the NBA wouldn't let me in the locker room. I'd already cleared it with the NBA. And he said, no, I just can't do this. I can't allow it. Long story short, the rules got changed on me in mid-season. And two things happened as a result. I flew home in the middle of that road trip when that happened. And my son, Danny, who was 10 months old at the time, the night I got home, stood up and walked for the first time. So thanks to Donnie Walsh, I was home when my first child walked for the first time. And I ended up doing a book on the Army-Navy rivalry called The Civil War, which to this day is my favorite book of all the ones I've written. I owe Donnie Walsh a debt of gratitude.
Well, Paul's father served in the Army. My dad Craig's grandfather was a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, and you're right, it's an incredible book. It absolutely, you could pick that up and read it at any time and enjoy it all. When you see Marvin Hagler passed away, obviously recently ESPN had a trilogy again with Ali and Frazier and some of those. When you see someone like marvelous Marvin Hagler, do you immediately think of Hagler or Hagler and Hearns?
Oh boy, I think of that whole era with Hagler and Hearns and Leonard and Duran. You know, when the heavyweights all of a sudden didn't seem to matter until Mike Tyson came along. And because I have worked for the Washington Post, Sugar Ray Leonard was like one of our franchises here, as opposed to not having a baseball team for years. We covered him very closely, and I got to know Ray a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. So I covered some of those fights. I've never covered boxing that much, but that was the era of boxing I did cover. So I think about Hagler, I think about Hearns, I think about Duran, and I think about Sugar Ray, of course. And it was just an incredible era in the welterweight, middleweight divisions. Those fights were absolute classics, to say the least.
No question. A Good Walk Spoiled, to me, is one of the great books too. I know there's a lot of them, but that in the Q School, you could read the tension as you're reading those books.
Well, you know, the funny thing was, Good Walk Spoiled led to Tales from Q School, because while I was researching A Good Walk Spoiled, I went to Q School because several of the guys I was following closely, Brian Henninger, Paul Goydos, Jeff Cook, all had to go to Q School at the end of 1993 when I had started the research. And you're right about the tension. I mean, it was just unbelievable, 6 straight days of it. And in the back of my mind, as I was going through Q School with those guys, I said, someday I should do a book just on Q School. And years later I did. I went to, you want to talk about tension, try going to First Stage, where there are very good players. Very good. A good friend of mine growing up, Rick Southwick, was good enough to beat Phil Mickelson in the U.S. Amateur in 1992. He never got out of First Stage. And if you don't get out of First Stage, you can't play golf for a living, basically. So that's tension. You know, at least at the finals, especially in recent years, you had the what's it called now, the Korn Ferry Tour to fall back on. And now, of course, they've ruined Q School because you can only get onto the Korn Ferry Tour through Q School. You can't get onto the PGA Tour through Q School. And I think among the many mistakes the PGA Tour has made, that one is right near the top, because there's a reason why the players call Q School the fifth major. Absolutely. Because the tension was just unbelievable. Of course, the tour keeps trying to convince us that the players is a major. It's not. It's a golf tournament played for a lot of money, not for history. The majors are played for history, but the fifth major was a good title for Q School in the old days.
Paul, you have one more?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we have a mutual friend, Scott Pasednik, from just up the road in West, and he featured in one of your books where nobody knows your name. So, we love Scott. He's from just up the road in West, Texas.
And he's such a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, such a good guy. I mean, he was up and down that year that I was doing Where Nobody Knows Your Name, and no matter where he was playing or how things were going, he always had time for me, and I'll always be grateful to him for that.
John, you want to give everyone a little note about Story Time with John Feinstein. It's online. This is where I found the book, the Rocco book. I'm surprised I didn't know about it. Not that I was, looking through it all the time, but it's a great book. Give everyone an idea how they can find a way to be a part of that.
Well, thanks for bringing it up. A friend of mine and I started this about 3-4 months ago, and I've been around for so long and known so many people that I have a lot of stories that have never made it into my books or into my newspaper columns. And during the pandemic, I started doing these anecdotes on my Twitter feed, and people seemed to love them and said, you got to do more of this. So we started Storytime a few months ago. The way to find it, to subscribe, it's $2 a month, so I don't think it's unreasonable. You get 3 a week. Is to go to my website, jfeinsteinbooks.com, and there's a link there. And if you want to sign up for extra privileges, it's a few more bucks. But if you just want the basic story times, it's $2 a month. And the response to it's been absolutely fantastic. And the best part of it is my 10-year-old daughter, Jane, who you may hear playing the piano in the background, does the introduction and the outro on each one of them. And if you don't like my content, you'll find her adorable, if nothing else.
Well, and if with no due respect, we could just have you go silent and listen to her because she's really good.
A lot of times when I'm on the radio, including some regular hits I do, the host will say, why don't you just shut up and let her play?
I was trying to be nicer than that. But no, John, it's great to have you on. Thank you for reaching back out to me. We appreciate it. Good luck with all what you're doing. I look forward to the next book you write as well. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Man, that was fun. I just was about to tweet this. You could go, a lot of our guests, you could sit down with John McClain and just talk with him for hours about memories and others. John Feinstein's definitely one of those. You could go on and on. And like he said, this link that he has to where you can go on and get 3 books or 3 things or columns, whatever, a week on things he hasn't written about that he has in his head. That was fun. And the book I have is Are You Kidding Me? It's in the 2008 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines when Tiger hit that putt on 18 to force the extra round, and he beat Rocco Mediate to win what was then his 14th major. And then, of course, many things changed in his life, including that was the time when he had the Achilles and the fractures in the ACL.
Have you read it yet, or did you just?
No, I just got it in the mail. In fact, this morning I just got it. I just went online. This is it's like an older copy, but I can't wait to read it. I've got the book that I got from you all, the family, about Tiger and Elton John. Those are books that I've read.
There's a book about Tiger and Elton John?
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't know
about all the secrets in Tiger's past.
Together,
no.
There's. I mean, look, I watched that documentary.
Where do you think that 7-iron came from?
Never point. At no point.
No, the Swedish Nanny was a cover-up the entire time.
I do like. Here's one thing about sports that the people may not know about Elton John is I found he owns a soccer team.
Yes,
and he not only owns a soccer team, he will call up and tell the guys, listen, this is wrong.
Yeah, he will. He's very much involved in that as well. When we come back, a comment from Kim Mulkey about the NCAA tournament. Actually, no, Len Elmore will join us from the Big Ten Network. We'll hear from Kim Mulkey a little bit after that. We are loaded up Mac Rhodes today at 4:20. Man, I enjoyed John Feinstein. Hope you did as well. This is SicEm365 Radio.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel at the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
Teague floats one off the window. Score it, plus the foul.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, I'm excited. We just had John Feinstein. He was fantastic, and looking forward to this with former Maryland great Len Elmore, the Big Ten Network, longtime broadcaster for CBS with the NCAA tournament, ESPN as well, and Len Elmore, who happens to be really, really good in law as well, joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Does this time of the year get you more, I guess, juiced up in a way, Len, because you played the game, you played at a great school, but also because you were so heavily involved in the tournament for years?
It gets me juiced because I love the game. And, you know, this is the culmination of a season of college basketball, this one unlike any other. And, you know, it's always interesting to see these young men and also the young women, you know, how they prepare themselves and how they get ready for competition in a one-and-done situation. You know, that's what I love about it. You know, you have an opportunity for, you know, a team to step up and play beyond their capabilities for one day. And you also have the drama of a team that's the favorite that ultimately, you know, kind of loses their poise and loses to someone they shouldn't. And the drama of all of that is something that I think that's appealing.
What do you think mentally tough teams have to be, especially after a year like this, where there have been stops and starts, and there's still the tension of, at any time your team could just get sent home before you even play a game in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I mean that's something that certainly has to be watched. They, as they said, their protocol isn't as stringent, say, as the NBA's when they had their bubble, but it's pretty tight, and it requires self-discipline, among the team. And this is where the camaraderie, this is where playing for each other comes in, that you recognize it's your responsibility to stay healthy, to stay safe, and not engage in conduct that, ultimately might bring the virus to you and create a positive test, and ultimately your team is out. Every player is responsible for that. Every coach is responsible for that. So, that adds a little bit to that responsibility to each other.
Len, obviously Baylor's had a pretty strong year, got knocked out in the second round of the Big 12 tournament by a very good Oklahoma State squad, but what have been your thoughts on the journey of Scott Drew earning that first Big 12 title and just the way that they're set up now heading into the big one?
I've always thought Scott Drew was an excellent coach, obviously a great eye for talent. And, he's had an opportunity to do something at this university that, hadn't been done in decades, I guess. But I was kind of surprised that he got beat simply because, I thought they were head and shoulders above everyone. But it is an example that, a team with 3 stars on it that are consistent day in, day out, can have that one stumble. And that could happen in the tournament as well. You got to be careful of it. But overall, I think he's done wonders for that program. I think he's picked it up kind of on his shoulders, and over the years, he's been able to build it. I remember covering them when they played in a tournament in Orlando. This is years ago. I think one of the players, was it Lake Darius Dunn or someone that, I remember watching them then, and when he had just started with that program. And Scott actually asked me to speak to the young man because he was having an off day and, kind of down in the dumps. And I thought that was pretty special to, try to get somebody else to talk to a young man that, needed some kind of intervention, so to speak. And so that, that's the psychological element of it. I think it just shows that he cares as well. And we have a coach that cares. Normally they're going to have a great deal of success.
The Big 12 has 7 of their 10 in, but the Big 10 has had a monster year across the board in many ways as well. Even a Rutgers at 15-11 is in because of the strength of schedule and how good that conference was. You got to see it. You got to analyze it. You got to almost just touch and feel it and all that, whatever you could with COVID. But your thoughts about how difficult that conference was, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Illinois, of course, who Baylor played, and all the top elite teams.
Yeah, I think that from a competitive standpoint, that's the kind of competition you want that gets you ready for a tournament like this. There were no off nights. Even with the teams at the bottom, like the Nebraskas or the Penn State, and even Northwestern, you saw what they were able to do, particularly down the stretch, pull out some wins against teams that were actually fighting to get into the tournament. I know Penn State and Northwestern beat Maryland and made Maryland's hopes kind of shaky down the stretch at a time when they should have beaten both of those teams to be comfortably in the tournament. So, you can't take anything for granted when you're in the Big Ten. And I'm sure a lot of people would say that in their conferences because familiarity breeds contempt. But the quality of play, the talent level on each team, and you left out a very, very good Purdue team and Ohio State, 2 teams that have an opportunity to go a long way. So, I think that the Big Ten, was the cream of the crop this year.
What do you think was the key factor about Juwan Howard and how he's been able to – he took over a good program. He wasn't taking over some of those down in the dumps, but the way that he's been able to hit the ground running so fast at Michigan.
Yeah, he had some talent there. John Beilein left him some players. But Juwan, his experience as a player, his experience playing for Steve Fisher before that, his experience as a coach in the NBA, it had to have taught him a whole lot. Not only from an X and O standpoint, but how to deal with today's players, and specifically, how to get the most out of them at a time when they weren't picked to finish first in the Big Ten. They were picked, I think, in the middle of the pack, but he was able to get the most out of them. Remember, they had a COVID break as well, and so when you're off 15 days, 20 days, and you're still able to come back and hit the ground running, that says an awful lot about your organization as a coach. It has a lot about your process to get these guys, to keep them in shape, keep them sharp. So it told me a lot. And I was going to say Juwan's temperament as well, until his little dust-up with Turgeon. Sometimes, he let the Chicago in him get the best of him for a little bit. But he's recovered.
Len, Indiana decided to move on from Archie Miller. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of big names attached to that job. Brad Stevens and Rick Pitino have already come out to say that they're not interested. What do you think is going to take there at Indiana? And kind of how do you size up that job at this point?
I still think it's a premier job. You feel bad. I know Archie Miller is a terrific coach, but sometimes, to get the players and the culture, you make sometimes you make some mistakes. He's had some good players, but the chemistry wasn't there, and the wins just didn't come, particularly for Hoosier fans. I mean, you go to Indiana. I played for the Indiana Pacers for 5 years, and they'll tell you they invented basketball, even though it was done up in Springfield, Mass. But in the end, I think moving on is probably best for both parties. And it is, I think, one of the premier jobs. I kind of laugh if Brad and Rick Pitino say they're not interested. In some instances, knowing Rick Pitino particularly the way I do, that means he probably is interested. But there are a lot of quality names out there, and it's going to be difficult to kind of make a choice for the AD, because the AD is the next one to go if he makes the wrong choice. They don't get a coach that brings the Hoosiers back to prominence.
Power Memorial Academy. That school kind of produced some pretty good people, didn't it, Len?
Yeah. Notwithstanding the big fella, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yep.
People don't realize Chris Mullin went to Power up until I think his junior year. He played actually for one of my high school teammates. Dick Pavetta, the longtime NBA coach, was there, but a lot of quality college players. But the name and the school is certainly synonymous with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I happened to follow him 5 years later, and the inevitable comparisons were made. People didn't realize, though, that was my first year of playing organized basketball.
Wow.
And of course, after day one of practice, the comparison stopped, which we would expect.
Len Elmore.
I worked it on. My sophomore year was a learning experience. My junior year, I was all New York City. My senior year, I was All-American, and we were national high school champs. So it kind of worked out then. And I had good career in college and in the pros. It wasn't Kareem style, but it was good enough. My only regret was getting injured in my third year of playing in the pros and wrecked my knee coming off a pretty good season. I averaged almost 15 and 11. And I look at the way some of these guys are getting paid today, man. Hopefully I could have broken the bank.
No question.
That's a whole other story.
You had at Maryland, you and Tom McMillan were kind of twin towers, and both of you averaged nearly, I think, probably did a double-double. Was it almost like just playing volleyball around the rim with you two?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, we worked hard at it, and we had the competition in the ACC was tremendous. I look at we're very proud of what we were able to accomplish. I'm just sad that we couldn't have won a national championship. I think in today's environment, with an expanded field, we might have gotten one. We did win the NIT at a time when the NIT was, a pretty good tournament. But during those days, there were only like 28 teams that were going to the NCAA tournament. And, ACC was a one-bid team. And we were number 3 in the nation. NC State with David Thompson, who was Jordan before Michael Jordan. 7'4", Tom Burleson, Monty Town, and a bunch of other great players. We played to an overtime, and we lost by 3 to them. They get to go on and win the national championship, and we had to go home. But the NCAA recognized the absurdity of that and expanded the field the year after. Didn't do us any good, but, that was kind of the precursor to March Madness today. And that's why, when people are playing these, conference tournaments, and it doesn't seem like it's life or death as it was back in the day, that's the reason why, because you can still go. If Baylor had been in the same situation we were in, with a tremendous record and tremendous accomplishment, and wind up losing to Oklahoma State, they wouldn't have gone to the NCAA tournament and had a chance to win. That's just, and that's nature. That's the way it goes. But it's always a comparison to be made and understanding how precious playing in March Madness is.
You've been broadcasting now for 30 years, and in 1992, you got to do maybe the greatest college basketball moment of all time with Christian Laettner's shot. I know you've done a lot, but has anything equaled the craziness of that moment of Duke and Kentucky?
Not really. I mean, I played in, as I just mentioned, a game that prior to that one, people considered the greatest college game ever, the game we played with NC State. But I think what puts that game with Kentucky and Duke over the top was not only the pace of the game, great players like Jamal Mashburn, Christian Laettner, Grant Hill, guys like that, but the suddenness of the ending. And Christian Laettner was perfect from the field. Then the argument was, why don't you put a guy on the inbound passer on Grant Hill to make it hard for him to throw at 3/4 of the court? There were so many debates within the game. And then, like I said, for it to end on that sudden note when Laettner hits the jump shot, I could still see John Pelfrey stepping away from him instead of stepping towards him. It was a tremendous game, and I'll always remember it.
John Lucas, Albert King, Buck Williams, Len Elmore, Tom McMillan, some of the great names of Maryland basketball. Obviously, Len Bias as well. Yep. Do you still, anytime they play, is it just something that you're always monitoring them no matter what they're doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Maryland, going to the University of Maryland was one of the best decisions I ever made. I met my wife there. I had a wonderful time, got a quality education. I can't help but have them close to my heart, and met some great friends. I mean, Tom McMillan, John Lucas, myself, Mo Howard. I mean, we're all still pretty tight. It's almost 50 years. We've seen each other grow old. We've lost some of our friends as well during that period of time. So, but yeah, I mean, that's what the college experience is all about, particularly college sports. You have friends for a lifetime. You have memories that last you for a lifetime. And that's why I tell young men who play this game that, don't take this stuff for granted, man, because, it goes by in the wink of an eye, and, you don't get it back. All you have left in a memory. So make sure those memories are good ones.
Len, if you don't mind, one more question about your law career, because that was soon after you left the NBA and you got into that. Sure. You did very well, received your degree from Hartford in '87. You were a prosecutor. Did sports and competition mix it all with what you had to do as an attorney or a lawyer?
Absolutely. One of the reasons I wanted to be a lawyer, obviously, was I wanted to have positive impact on my community, my hometown of Brooklyn, New York. It was Kings County that I started instead of going to a corporate firm. But equally as important, to prepare me, that competitive juice that you needed to have. You wanted to be on stage, you wanted to be the center of attention, and you wanted to compete. And that helped to drive me to try to do the right thing, try to do justice rather than merely convict, and make sure that you're doing it properly. So, yeah, I was definitely influenced by my competitive nature that was grown and nurtured in sports.
Do you remember, if you don't mind, when you did speak to Lace Dunn, off the top of your head, do you remember much of what you said to him?
Yeah, I just recall, I mean, he didn't have a good game and he was down a little bit, and, just talked and told him it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a tournament, you can come back tomorrow and have a great game. That's what it's all about. Don't take this game and don't take yourself too seriously. I definitely remember saying that. And remember, you work hard. You got a tremendous amount of talent that'll come to the top. And I think he did go out and have a pretty good game the very next game. But that was the old Spice Classic, if I recall. And maybe if you guys ever get a chance to talk to Lace, maybe he'll remember it as well. He might remember it differently, but that's how I remember it.
No, I'm sure he does. And Len, thank you, man. It's when you text me back, I couldn't help it. It was great to have you. Been wanting to have you on for a long, long time. Continued good luck with the Big Ten Network and also with everything else you do.
I appreciate the opportunity, guys. It's been fun. Thank you.
Len Elmore, Maryland great, NBA, and, of course, a broadcaster, as you mentioned, Paul, did that Kentucky game with Duke and Luke Leitner's turnaround jump shot to win it. Boom! Suddenly it's over, the game, and those two great rivals. All right, when we come back, Mack Rhodes, Baylor's director of athletics, on many things about the bubble, about the tournaments, about what the experience was like in Kansas City, and, yes, a couple of other notes about then a couple of the events and activities and complexes and stuff on the campus at Baylor. An update: Andy Dalton has signed a 1-year deal, $10 million with the Bears, and Tyrod Taylor could get up to $12.5 million with the Texans. That's their contingency plan for Deshaun Watson. This is SicEm365 Radio. Pioneer Boys, pioneerboys.com, 1943, Pioneer Boys. Steel and Pipe, Pioneer Steel and Pipe got in business, and my goodness, they've just continued to just rock and roll right through every decade, all the way into the early parts of the 2020s, and it's just an amazing company. And, everybody, when you start a company, the things you want to be able to sustain what you do. Think about it. How many companies have been run out of business because of big box stores, or just because things did not work out, or maybe even because of recently COVID? Pioneer Steel and Pipe continues to roll. 1943, they're going to build that new facility on the corner of 340 in Waco, Loop 340, and also 12th Street. Pioneer Steel and Pipe offers you the fundamentals of great business. Incredible product, steel, pipe, and much more. Incredible product. And then, of course, on top of that, customer service that makes a difference. They truly think that you're the only customer, but they know they have many others. But when you walk in and you leave with what you need or what you bought, you will feel like you're the only one that was in that building, although you'll see many others, because a lot of people do business with Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Since 1943, greatness in how they've done their business at pioneerboys.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy elite tennis facilities and also remain fit or reshape your body. Now Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. There are 7 large flat screens stretched across the main and improved weight room with Wi-Fi available and their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports channels. The beautiful sound of active treadmills and elliptical machines, group exercise classes throughout each day, a new ballet bar for bar classes, a new look lounge and bar with beer and wine with more large flat screens available. Touchless water fountains outside each spacious men's and women's locker rooms, showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts and lessons for adults and juniors. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Also, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. So start today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
March marks 22 years for Richard Carr Motors. Celebrate with big savings going on now during the anniversary sale event.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
We've sent the nomination forms to area high school counselors for the 11th annual Academic All-Stars team, and we will find 20 elite student athletes who excel in both academic and athletic competition from Central Texas high schools. Hello, everyone. This is David Smoak. Our title sponsor is Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952. The 2021 Academic All-Stars program is also brought to you by Westdale Asset Management, Englander Design Pack, Southwest Sports Medicine, Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Coca-Cola of Waco, Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating, Texas Sports Hall of Fame, HEB, the McLean Group, Universal Windows Direct, Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, and the Waco Foundation are 501c3. Nomination deadlines March 31st. We'll eventually announce the team on Monday, May 3rd. Honor them at our annual banquet on Wednesday, May the 19th. It's the 11th annual Academic All-Stars team highlighting the elite student athletes in Central Texas right here on SicEm365 Radio.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mac Rhodes is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
I tell you what, I don't know about you, and I hope you feel the way. Craig, Paul, Armstrong, having John Feinstein, great author and writer, and then the great Len Elmore on the show. And then on top of that, we go from Hall of Fame author to Hall of Fame basketball player to Hall of Fame athletic director in Mac Rhodes. That's the only way we could follow those two segments, is having Mac on the show, who joins us on SicEm365 Radio.
How about Hall of Fame Mac Rhodes? That'd be more accurate.
Yeah, I was sucking up pretty big time right there. How did the bubble work? How was kind of whatever it was in Kansas City? Were you pretty comfortable with how that launched everybody to various sites in San Antonio and Indianapolis?
Yeah, I was. I thought it was really smart of the Big 12 to replicate what it would look like, feel like here in Indy, and Big 12. Everybody all involved did a great job there, and it was a good precursor for what we're living now. So it's interesting, right? We're in Indy. We got here last night, and we're still in quarantine. We are waiting for the text message as we speak. We thought we were going to get it at 5 Eastern, 4 o'clock your time, but that we would be out of quarantine. We're waiting for our test results this morning. When we got here last night to the hotel, we were tested, and then they told us no news was good news. So that was encouraging. And then this morning at 9:20 Eastern, we tested a second time, and we're just waiting for those results and hopefully out of quarantine here any minute. So if I get the message that we are out of quarantine while I'm on the radio, I'm hanging up and I'm leaving my hotel. So.
Well, you're going to tell us first. You're going to. I mean, like
I think we'll know. I think we'll know,
yeah,
right? You just go.
Yeah,
you've earned it.
You just all of a sudden, ding.
Yeah, I may not tell you. You just might not hear me anymore. So,
have you accessed all the features of your hotel room? I mean, if you're in there.
No, I'm a pro with everything technology can offer within the room. So it's been good. A lot of Zoom calls today. So the day actually has gone by really, really quick. So that is a positive.
Mac, your thoughts on what you saw from the men's team last week, bowing out to Oklahoma State in the second round, but, number one seed, going to face Hartford there in the first round. Just what are your thoughts on, going from the Big 12 tournament and what you saw there to now it being, big tournament time and obviously the expectations very high?
Yeah, I think, just looking back to Big 12 tournament, right? Nobody ever likes to lose, and you certainly don't want to. But you try to take the positive from it, and I think that's where, Scott is elite, right? And so I thought, the extra day not having to play, was an opportunity for us to rest up. We strategically stayed in Kansas City and really hoped that we wouldn't have to come to Indy until later in the day yesterday, so that we could get in some full practices both days, and I think we really our kids really benefited from that. So just the ability to rest a little bit physically, rest our minds, but still be able to really actually practice rather than just game prep, I think will be good for us. And I know that our team is obviously excited to play on Friday versus Hartford, and we'll be ready to go.
I get kind of mixed up on how many different committees, oversight committees, but the NCAA Football Oversight Committee has a subgroup that looking at the ideas of allowing college football in-person evaluation of football recruits starting in June and July. Your thoughts about that? Finally appears to be the clouds breaking and the sunshine maybe being more available than it has been for a year.
Yeah, as we've talked before, right? Dead period extended through or up till May 31st, and what that meant was you can certainly communicate with prospective student athletes, but you couldn't have them on your campus, right? You couldn't have them for unofficial visits, and so that opens it up. And then what do we do for camps? So I think that's all positive, and again, we've talked about what does it look like in the future? What are some lessons learned and some best practices going through COVID? And do we really have to get back all the way to quote unquote normal when we think about the recruiting calendar? And do our coaches really need to be out on the road, in person evaluations as much as they were in the past? And I think all of us, our coaches included, were surprised that having to spend time on Zoom with prospective student athletes really allowed them to get to know them better. And so there were some positive things about going through COVID as it relates to recruiting. So step by step, and I think it's certainly a good step forward to get into what we would call from dead period to quiet period, where we can begin to have on campus visits. And for right now, for the general prospective student, not student athlete, but student, those prospective students are able to come onto the Baylor campus right now, and we're providing tours and giving them an opportunity to see the campus and meet people and learn more about Baylor University.
Mac, where does the Big 12 or college football stand about now that, vaccines are going to be ready, available, to everybody, I guess, around May 1st or so, about vaccinating athletes and coaches and making sure that happens? Obviously, people have to choose to get the vaccine, but where will that go and how will that work?
Yeah, Paul, it's a great question. I don't know that, the Big 12 per se will formalize, will come up with any specific particular plan as a conference. I think it will be up to every institution. I begin to think about what are the rules? What are the protocols in place for the student athlete, or for that matter, the coach or staff member that doesn't want to get the vaccine, right? And we're certainly not gonna force anybody to do that. But how are they treated when we think about future and those types of COVID protocols versus those that are vaccinated? So I don't think we've wrapped our mind around that yet. I know that it's something out there that certainly I think about, but haven't really crossed that bridge yet, and haven't really had some of those specific conversations. And I don't know that the we're not ready to have those conversations yet. I think we need some time to elapse before we begin to have those discussions.
Mac, the Lady Bears took care of business in their tournament. They're off to San Antonio. I've been seeing some tweets about them, being on their way or arriving or whatnot. Just your thoughts on, I guess, how do you kind of keep up with everything? The ladies in San Antonio, the men are going to be, baseball, softball, spring sports. How do you kind of manage your calendar and I guess be at as many places as you can possibly be?
Yeah, it's a great question, Craig. And to be honest with you, I don't. Lauren Smith does and tells me where I need to be. But what a unbelievable time it really is, and I love the frenetic pace. I love the chaos of it. I love 10 things up in the air, right, all happening at one time. And to me, that's what makes life exciting. And to have a men's basketball team that's a number one seed, first number one seed in the history, number 2 overall seed, and to have a women's basketball program as a number 2 seed. And by the way, I was reading this just a couple days ago, or right after the bracket came out. So it wasn't a couple days ago with women's basketball, but just 10 straight NCAA tournament appearances with the number 2 seed or higher. Mm-hmm. Think about women's basketball. That's I think about one word and I think about the word dominance, and that's unbelievable to think about that. And excited to see them play Sunday against Jackson State. And you can't help but look through the bracket and look forward, and then if you can beat Jackson State, a potential game versus the winner of Virginia Tech Marquette, and then you think about, wow, if you can get past that and Tennessee can continue to advance, that matchup, 2 of the biggest brands in the history of women's college basketball. So excited for them. I think what I love most is the name of their region, the Riverwalk. I thought that was pretty cool that we were in the Riverwalk region. So excited to watch them play. And I think there's, when you think about women's basketball this year, I think any one of 8 teams really has a legitimate shot at winning it, and we're one of those 8, and we have every bit of chance and every bit as opportunity to do it as the other 7. So I'm excited.
Mac, there is because it's also a time of the year of when coaching changes occur. You've dealt with this when it comes to football multiple times, but you have 2 staples, 2 legends, Kim Mulkey with what she's done and Scott Drew what he's accomplishing and trying to do. There are some things out there, though, because of openings when Scott Drew's name's being mentioned. Do you have any thoughts about that whatsoever? Scott Drew, to me, and like to a lot of people like Kim Mulkey, seems like he will always be a part of Baylor.
Well, I think when you talk about both of them, right, that's certainly my intention and our intention as an institution. And we hope that Kim's here for a long time and Scott's here for a long time. And any time there are openings, right, and you think about a brand like, for example, IU, and you think about, Scott and Indiana and his family, there's going to be, natural correlation and speculation, and quite frankly, there should be. I'm glad that we have a head coach that would garner interest from a program like an IU when you think about national championships and that brand. So, but I'd also say that Baylor, and I think we're on our way, and I think what Scott is building is special. With all due respect, and I got my master's from IU, so I love the institution. It's very near and dear to Amy and I. We spent great years great year and a half in Bloomington, and but Baylor, we can be, and I think we are every bit as good or better in terms of our men's basketball program, and I think it's certainly this year to be a number one seed. Last year, I think we would have been a number seed, and so what Scott's building is special, and I think it can be as special as any place in the entire country, and that's the intent.
Would you answer or not that has anyone reached out to you with permission, or is that something that's not kosher while the tournament is about to start?
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking the question, and I appreciate you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't. And where I get worried, to be candid, is just distraction, right?
Right.
And it's distraction for I just don't want it to be distraction for our young men. I don't want it to be distraction for Scott, and it won't be for Scott. I can tell you he is 100% focused on nothing but Baylor basketball, nothing but our student athletes. And so, I always treat it very similar to when we're in a head coach search, right? I don't publicly comment, and I don't, I'm not going to publicly comment right now whether or not, somebody's contacted me or not regarding Scott. Scott and I have a great relationship, and I just know this: whatever happens, it won't be a surprise to me, and it won't be a surprise to Scott, because we have a trusting relationship, a great relationship. We've certainly had conversation about him being here for a long, long time, and we'll continue to have those conversations.
With their success, which is 70 years old compared to the last conference title, and obviously you still have to deal with what has not come through because of the pandemic or whatever else, could that at all, the success we know what the Lady Bears have done, what the men are doing, move up any kind of timeline when it comes to the field house?
Man, that's another really great question, and and I'm pausing a little bit because I'm thinking about a couple things. I think that the success, right, that we've had this year, and really certainly over the course of the last couple of years, and I don't want to discount any years before then, because Scott's had great success even before then, Elite 8, Sweet 16, those things as well. But I think with current success, right, it builds momentum, and I think it certainly can be a catalyst to help with fundraising, and to be able to maybe increase, do it at a faster capacity. And so you have that component of it. But the other piece of it is just where we are as an industry, higher education, and the ability to go out and borrow money right now, COVID. And so that's a pretty formidable object right now for everybody in higher education. And I just don't know that we can advance that piece of it. But the minute we're able to advance as an institution, we'll be ready. And I'm excited about it. And, I've said it before, I'm certainly hopeful and think it's realistic to think that we can break ground on the pavilion in the next 12 to 15 months.
You get a text from the NCAA or anybody yet while you've been doing this?
I have not. It is absolutely killing me.
Okay.
But I'm still following the rules and still in my room.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us. Anyone else? Thank you, Mac. Appreciate it. Good luck in Indianapolis.
Just be careful. Those macadamia nuts are way overpriced. Don't fall for that.
I will not.
All right.
Thank you for
Mac Rose.
Thank you, guys.
You too. Thank you, Mac Rose, Director of Athletics. And those are things that you got to be careful how you answer them, because you could open up but that is legitimate. You got to know. I mean, his name's out there.
I mean, it is, but like, to what extent, really? Like, I know that there are definitely going to be universities interested in Scott Drew, but I feel like also, like, it's right now a reaction to Twitter. You know what I mean? It's like just a bunch of people like, hey, Scott Drew would be great. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Indiana's interested in Scott Drew. And then it's like, oh, man, Indiana. You know, it's like it's weird how quickly it escalates. And I understand all the connections and the reasons why, but I also definitely understand Mac just not wanting to really make it more of a distraction than it already could potentially be.
And I know that he's never going to be hotter maybe than he is right now.
Right.
And maybe, I mean, like, just and because of that,
I'll say this: it's not. I get it. You're right. I'm not asking him that question because of stories that are written that are just tied to him. It's because I talked to some basketball insiders as well that we know that we've had on this show, and kind of picked their brain a little bit.
And look, Indiana, I think would be kind of silly not to at least ask. But the bottom line is, it's still. Is that always the best thing? And you're seeing more and more. Look, John Calipari could have gone to the NBA probably 5 or 6 times in the last decade, and he hasn't. Coach Krzyzewski could have gone a lot of places. I think that the kind of ideal basketball situation in college basketball, you look around the landscape now, is the kind of situation that Scott Drew has, is where you can be somewhere and not have to leave ever.
There are places where this could eat you up, and I don't think it's going to be one of those. That I think that, again, because of what Scott Drew represents and his relationship. Yeah, I agree. Think about this, though. Baylor, little private school, right across the 35 from where we are. They have a basketball coach and a Lady Bears coach at Kim Mulkey that everybody in the country except maybe 5 or 10 programs would want. No matter what anyone might say, I don't want her. Yes, you would. You have a basketball coach right now that pretty much most everybody in the country except a handful of schools would want. And for a while there, we had the red-hot Art Briles until all of a sudden all hell broke loose. But also, you had NFL teams knocking down the door for a Matt Rule. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty damn impressive that you had all them on your campus, and it's been over the last 5 years.
Well, I'll tell you this much, and this is not anything directed towards Scott Drew, because he's certainly not pouring any gasoline on any of this, but, man, it would be really great to just enjoy Baylor's success without it immediately being followed by a coaching search or a coaching rumor, or every football success has been followed quickly by UT trying to go after Briles, and then him just exiting, because of a scandal. Then it was Matt Rule in the NFL. Now it's, Scott Drew's doing good. So now Indiana's calling. And it's just like, can we just enjoy what's out there? And that's what's great about Mulkey is, she could possibly have left like a billion times, and she's just there, and no one questions it, and no one, oh my God, Kim Mulkey might go to UT. There's been some.
Was there 1 year?
There's been some of that.
No, I mean, there was that when LSU.
It's not every year.
When LSU had their whole situation, everybody thought because Kim is, a dyed-in-the-wool Louisianan, a Cajun. I mean she bleeds and it smells like
she
boudin.
has one of the top 2 or 3 women's basketball jobs, facilities, amenities, and salaries in the country.
But if you look at where LSU spends their money athletically,
I agree.
They spend nothing.
Well, they don't spend anything academically.
Yeah, athletically. So they spend all this money, on football and buying out football coaches. The state itself is horribly financially run. It's like
corrupt.
It would be she'd be in a situation where she'd just be going back to Louisiana to go back to Louisiana.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't have some of the comforts in life that she would.
There was a game after they lost a couple of those Sweet 16 or Elite 8 games when there was a little float out there, and I had to make sure that I understood where it was coming from and had to do a little background and had to talk to some people at Baylor as well. There was a little bit of that, just a little bit of, hey. But you weren't – that was during a stretch when, because of the standards she set, it was not reaching that. And I know it's hard. I'm not saying you should go to the Final Four every year. UConn made it look stupid. But that kind of got nipped in the bud pretty quickly, too.
I'm not saying don't talk about – I'm not saying anything about, like, what to talk about. Just from my standpoint, it just really sucks that the Fiesta Bowl sucked because the entire week was Art Briles rumors. The Sugar Bowl sucked because the entire week was Matt Rule rumors. And I'm not going to let this week suck because of Scott Drew. No, I know. I'm just saying, like, it's annoying, and it's got to be terribly annoying for Baylor fans that anytime you have any success, it's automatically like, well, where's the coach going next in any sport, and even in Mulkey to some extent in years past, as you mentioned.
Yeah, but if I hadn't asked the question.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't have asked the question. I'm just saying that, like,
all
the Twitter chat is just that.
It can wear that living online words out of you. It can. And, by the way, even video as well. Armstrong Sims practicing his golf swing in the background. I think the John Feinstein conversation got him going. I'm going to let you read this book when I'm done with it, Armstrong. All right, at 4:45, David Woods from the Indianapolis Star, how that city has taken on NCAA madness. Also at 5, David Hellman at 5:20. We'll hear from Michelle Vopel on the women's tournament at 5:35, John McClain. One other note about breaking news, Terry Gamble, former Midway coach who had an incredible run, took him to a state championship in 2011, has announced his retirement from Allen High School, the largest school in Texas. The standard and the expectations there because of their enrollment, almost to the point of completely out of whack. And he knew that when he went there. That's where he was before he took the job at Midway. I guarantee you Terry Gamble probably has spent a lot of his time today bawling his eyes out because he loves coaching kids. But I do think that I kind of got a note from a couple of those who coached under him. They thought this was going to happen last year. It happened. Terry Gamble has retired from Allen High School, and I think maybe from coaching. The father, losing his father the year that they played Midway at McLean Stadium, I don't think anyone can understand how that can take it out of you if you've ever lost a parent or your father. Paul, I've done it. Paul's done it. Craig's grandfather as well. This is SicEm365 Radio.
If you are in the market for a new home, or maybe you just moved to the area, maybe you want to upgrade, maybe you've had kids and you need a bigger house, well, you need to call my good friend Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. And Lance is, by his own estimation, by his own description of himself, he's a unique person with a unique perspective, and that's true. And he can find those dream houses for you. He's got great listings. He can, just sit down with him and tell him what you're looking for, and he probably within 10 seconds will have 5 houses in mind, and then 5 more he wants to show you after he shows you those 5. He will have a variety of stuff for you. You're going to have fun looking for a house with him, and plus, he's going to find you the best possible deal, not only on the home that you're buying, but on the one that you might be selling. So give him a call, 254-214-3713, or online at lancedonaldson.exprealty.com.
Ram Truck Month means special pricing on new Ram trucks at Allen Samuels. The 3-Peat Motor Trend Truck of the Year, Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, has special values up to $7,250 or 0% for 72 months, plus $3,000 in combo cash. Visit the customer award-winning Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco, for the 3-time Motor Trend Truck of the Year, Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab. Ram Truck Month is going on now at Allen Samuels, your friend in the car business.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's the 22nd year anniversary sales event going on now at Richard Carr.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour, appreciate the patience of David Woods from the Indianapolis Star, covers Butler, covers a lot of things, and he joins us now on SicEm365 Radio with Paul, Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak. David, thank you very much for your patience. How has your city handled the invasion of March Madness?
Well, I've actually not been downtown lately, buried in all my assignments here from our working from home stuff. But this was an extremely well thought out, well developed plan. And, they made this decision pretty early in the process, like how can we handle a pandemic tournament, and everything about this season was really pointed to this week because, I think we got more games played during the college basketball season than many of us expected. And there just had to be a tournament. And I know there's a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth that it's all for the money. And it is. The NCAA and its member schools need this revenue to fulfill their TV obligations. But for the players, both men and women I've spoken to, said that they would have really been in even a deeper funk if they hadn't been able to play the game at all. So I do think the sport has navigated and made the best of what was a bad situation.
I know San Antonio is this way because they host a lot of stuff, and Indianapolis is one of the best host cities you can go to. I mean, we were there for the Super Bowl when it was there, and it was just second to none as the way that they did it. Is Indy really one of the only cities that could handle this situation, the NCAA tournament, just do it all in one spot?
Probably is. I wrote a story earlier. A suggestion was made that even after the pandemic, that Indianapolis should hold the entire tournament. I'm not really advocating for that because I think it's nice to spread it around the nation. It is a national tournament after all, and then come to one location for the Final Four. But I understand the thinking behind that. In that the travel involved is enormous expense for the NCAA and a pretty radical inconvenience for some of the teams. I just went back and looked at the 2019 tournament. For instance, Fairleigh Dickinson
played and won in a game in Dayton, Ohio on Tuesday night. And then 2 nights later, they had to play in Salt Lake City, and they got blown out by Gonzaga by 38 points. Now, is that something that we really need to do in college sports? And maybe we do. So, and the other thing is fans, if they knew where the Final Four or the entire tournament was going to be, they could get their lodging way ahead of time, and then perhaps buy tickets later. So I don't think it's something the NCAA is even contemplating. But it was interesting that we've seen a lot of things happen during the pandemic that we didn't think were going to happen, and I think some of them are going to become normalized or even made permanent.
David Woods in Indianapolis, as March Madness has descended upon the city. We just spoke with Mac Rhodes earlier today, Davion Mitchell, and also Scott Drew from Indianapolis. You saw Baylor last year when Butler came into Waco and played at the Farrell Center in a dramatic, close, low-scoring, knockdown, drag-out game, 53-52. When you saw Baylor then, did you see what they could be now?
I don't think so, but I sure remember that was a awfully good defensive team, and I was kind of surprised that Butler even clawed their way back into it, because I think they got behind by 12 or 15 points, and trying to score against Baylor was really difficult. And I also I'm a longtime follower of Illinois. I grew up in Champaign-Urbana, and I saw the Illinois-Baylor game. And Illinois has a very potent offense. Now, they're better now than they were then, but Baylor really successfully shut down the Illini in that game. And Baylor's has I think probably has a more potent offense now, maybe than they had a year ago. So they dealt with COVID interruptions pretty well. I know there was probably some anxiety after they lost to Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament, but that's just one game, one afternoon. I mean, I think Baylor over the course of the last 2 years, I'd have to look it up. I mean, they might have the best record in the country. I guess I'd have to check and see what Gonzaga's final record was last year. But it's remarkable what they've done down there, and I enjoyed the trip down to Waco. At the arena is not large, but I really like the arena a lot. I know that's football country down there, but what Baylor basketball is something special.
David, what is I know that certain people, like if you cover a certain team, you pretty much can only go to your team's game and then back to your hotel. For you that's a local, do you get to maybe hop around a little bit and see more tournament games coverage-wise there?
Yeah, I will be hopping around. We're a Gannett USA Today property, so we are utilizing sports writers from papers at Fort Wayne, Bloomington, Evansville, and South Bend, besides our own staff. So we are going to have a reporter at all 67 games in this tournament. I don't know that we're necessarily writing game accounts from all that, but kind of try to bring sights and sounds or things of what's not visible from TV. And then also because I kind of volunteered for it, we have two Illinois papers that need the games covered. So I'm essentially during the duration of the NCAA tournament going to be the beat writer covering Illinois for them. So I'll be doing some Illinois, some hopping around. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing NCAA tournament games played at Hinkle Fieldhouse, which is where I cover the Butler Bulldogs.
I love that. I saw pictures. You posted a picture of it's ready for India. It's ready for the NCAA. How old is that? How old is Hinkle? Is that Hinkle Fieldhouse or arena?
Yeah, Hinkle Fieldhouse, and it's built in 1928. It's 93 years old. It's had some significant renovations. Fortunately, traditionalists like myself, I'm glad for the fact that it still largely looks like it did in 1928. But it has a great modern video board, and it's got chair back seating and so forth. It could seat 9,100 when they originally built that. It was originally kind of built so they could attract Indiana's high school state tournament. It accommodated 15,000, and then they just jammed them in there. So it's a lot more comfortable. environment now, and Butler and Indianapolis residents, like to refer to something called Hinkle Magic. But there really have been a lot of consequential games played in that arena, and a lot of amazing finishes.
So you've seen all the college basketball. By the way, former Allen football coach and Midway football coach Terry Gamble's about to join us after we speak with David. Your thoughts about the tournament? Would you take Gonzaga against the field, or is that silly because no one's gone undefeated since 1976?
Yeah, it would really be ironic if Gonzaga ended up, say, playing in the national championship game, trying to complete an unbeaten season in the state of Indiana, considering the Indiana Hoosiers were the last unbeaten champions in 1976. So actually, probably the entire state of Indiana would be rooting for whoever Gonzaga was playing. Gonzaga is amazing, and they're just so good on offense. They're so highly skilled. I think they bring, they've got his name eludes me at the minute, the Florida transfer who can come in and spell Suggs as a point guard. They are just loaded. But it is basketball, 40 minutes. Everybody's vulnerable. You saw how hot BYU got in building like a 13-point lead over over Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference Championship game. So I think it'd be Gonzaga is definitely the favorite, and I see mostly them being picked. But to take them over the field, I don't think that would be a good bet.
David, thank you, man. Good luck with the city. It's a great place. I have credentials to eventually get there. I hope that means Baylor continues to win. Thank you so much for your time, and have fun. Enjoy it. I know you will.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
David Woods from the Indianapolis Star. Imagine all those teams descending on Indianapolis, Mack Rhodes and Baylor and everybody else. Everybody else. And that's a city that's hosted Final Fours. It's a city that's hosted Super Bowls. A Super Bowl, it's a great city. A lot of it's underground, of course, in the way that they have the connections. We're about to have a 5 o'clock hour. David Hellman on the Cowboys and Andy Dalton going to Chicago, and a couple of other notes, plus Michelle Vopel of the women's tournament, and then John McClain. But we're now joined by a longtime friend of ours, Terry Gamble, former Midway football coach and retiring as the head coach at Allen, joins Craig Paul, David Smoak on SicEm365 Radio. I can't even imagine, because I know you, the emotions that are going through your entire body right now. Thank you for your time. What has today been for you, and what kind of a day has it been for you?
It's been a great day, David. You know me well enough. We're not going to have a bad day. It might be a bad moment, but it's been a great day. I'm fully committed to what took place today because, you got to understand, I've been a blessed man for 36 years because I've been a coach and been around great people, great families, great kids, just unbelievable. So it's been a great day. Am I going to miss some things about it? Of course. I'm going to miss the kids. I'm going to miss the families. I'm going to miss the great coaches, just what the game brings every day. But, there's a time in everybody's life you got to move forward. So love Midway ISD, love Allen ISD, South Lake, Duncanville, all the places I've worked for, and all the people that I've been around. So, again, I've been a blessed man. And so it's a very, very satisfying day. So,
Coach, I'm not just teasing you. You seem to me to be almost too young to retire. And
well, you got to know how old I am now. I've got 3 grandchildren. In May, I'm going to have number 4. My daughter, Casey's fixing to have her first baby. So that's number 4. I've been coaching for 36 years now. And, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way. And, could I have probably kept going? But, I want to enjoy some things about life. And life's short. I think this past year that's taught us what a lesson we've all learned about life and the things that we have. So I want to go enjoy some things. I'm not going to just leave, but I'll be keeping up with things that go on in school districts and things, just like I have always.
Coach, I want to say thank you for being a part of the unofficial welcoming committee when I first arrived to Waco. You were one of the first people that I met, and you welcomed me in and made me feel comfortable. So I just want to say I appreciate that personally. Looking back at your time at Midway, obviously a lot of great wins, a lot of victories. What kind of immediately pops in your head when you think of the Midway Panthers and your time there?
What a great school district, and what a great community, and what great families and kids. You got to understand, Paul, the only reason that coaches are successful is the people that they get to work with, which is the coaches, the faculty, and the teachers. And when that school district buys in to what you're trying to do on a daily basis, then you've got a great opportunity to be successful. So to me, that's what pops into my mind is that Coach Gamble was lucky that he was able to coach for 6 years in Midway. And then when we got to go play on Friday nights, guess what? We were being broadcasted not because of David Smoak or Paul Catalina. It's because of what the job y'all do daily. Y'all are the best. I mean, y'all are. I mean, you present and you do the job that everybody loves to listen to high school sports. And so I can't thank y'all enough for the job you do also. So it was a great run for 6 years, and just around great people.
Well, you helped broker that, no question about it. Then, of course, Craig's with us as well, and he was a part of that as well. Just asked you the question about it and being involved as well. I received a text from Shane Anderson. I just want him to know, and I think you spoke with him, and I can't even imagine that conversation, how much he meant to my career, how he impacted my career. What does it mean when you hear that from a former coach?
Just you're thankful that you got to be around great people. Coach Anderson, there's a reason he's successful because of who he is as a person. And I don't know that Terry Gamble does anything. I mean, Terry Gamble has the opportunity to be around great people, and that's why you have success and things like that. There's one person there in Midway that everybody forgets about, and I'm going to tell you, every morning that I got to come to work and see this person, whoa, what a day I was going to have because of him, because he loves Midway football. When you're around that every day, I mean, how can you not? And that's Jason Kramer. That guy loves Midway sports. And when you're around people like that, you know you're going to be successful. So, shout out to Jason Kramer, the school district, Dr. Kazanis. They gave me an opportunity to be successful because of how they set things up. And so I'm blessed.
Look, Coach, I doing Conley this year and going out there, sometimes if I close my eyes during practice, I almost thought, I heard, a little Coach Gamble coming out in Shane Anderson. You can hear it.
Yeah, I mean,
believe me.
Y'all know how I am. You better get on that energy bus, or you better get on that swole train, and let's go to work. I mean, I just don't know how you can be successful without loving what you do and the energy and how you got to go about doing it daily. So it's all good.
Terry, I know how much you put into the game, and coaches around the state of Texas, what it means. You are walking away from something you love to do, and I know you also love life as well. Do you feel like coaching at a place like Allen, where you knew the standard and the expectations could wear you out?
Somebody asked me today, when I came back, did the pressure, and that there was no pressure because I know what Allen's about. I knew that these kids here, this community and these families and everything that comes with it. The one thing that I think that everybody needs to stop and think about is don't consume yourself with things about me. And when I walk away, it's not going to be about Terry Gamble. It's going to be about the kids and the families that I was fortunate to be around. And I think if you'll go about life doing that, but in our society today, there's so many things that people want to get consumed about me. And that's the one thing that I think, if I could say or give people advice, don't worry about you. Worry about what you can do for others and how you can go about doing that and help people. So.
Thank you very much, Coach. We enjoyed every year. Of course, we've done Midway every year, but one since 2011. We're going to have them on starting again this upcoming year as well with Coach Hume and what he's tried to continue as well, and has at times. They played for a state championship with Tanner Mordecai, and you played against them. We appreciate what you set, of course, before you with Coach Bechtel, and then also now what they continue to try to do. We appreciate your time.
Thank y'all, David and Paul. Appreciate you guys. We love you. Have a great day.
Thank you. That's Terry Gamble, who announced his retirement as the head football coach at Allen High School. That's it. That's the biggest school in Texas. That's a bombshell. But I'll tell you this now that we've had the interview, kind of had a feeling the last couple of years there's been a little bit of thoughts that he might be just about ready to move on.
Well, and you heard
he's 60, very young, but at the same time he's been, what did he say, almost coaching for nearly 40 years. When we come back, David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, some news, and it's not about Dak. That was last week. It's Andy Dalton, Cheeto Awuzie, even a long snapper, plus Michelle Vopel in the women's tournament, and John McClain on Tyrod Taylor joining the Texans. SicEm365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac March means it's time to celebrate 22 years of serving Waco and Central Texas with big savings on all cars and trucks on the lot. All 2021 Buicks have deep discounts. You can save $4,500 on a 2021 Buick Encore. You can save $3,500 on a 2021 Buick Encore GX or a 2021 Buick Envision. You can save $6,000 off a 2021 Buick Enclave. Qualified buyers get 0% financing for 72 months. If you want the best truck, then it means you want a GMC. You can find savings like $8,000 off a 2021 GMC Sierra or save $6,500 on a 2021 GMC Acadia or Terrain. And Richard Carr Motors is your local family dealer that wants to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes with new purchase, and priority warranty service on all vehicles purchased. So come by their clean and disinfected showroom, take a test drive, or let them bring a test drive to you. Right now, during the big basketball tournament, you can come by and take a shot to also win additional prizes. It's the big 22-year anniversary sales event going on now at Richard Carr.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old, and they come every 6 months, and it's a happy experience. It's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. Rapid fire, 5 o'clock hour. Michelle Vopel, ESPN.com, and the women's tournament momentarily. Joined now by David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, and it seemed like there were weeks upon weeks when we waited on Dak. That's cleared. Now movement. Andy Dalton to Chicago. Awuzie's gone, among some others. David, your thoughts about the Andy Dalton news?
Largely expected, I would say. I guess there was an outside chance that Andy Dalton might be back here at the right price if an opportunity didn't materialize to be a starter. But obviously, Chicago's in dire need of a quarterback. It sounds like they were trying to move heaven and earth to get Russell Wilson, but I don't know how realistic that is. And in the meantime, they signed Andy Dalton to a 1-year deal, and I'm sure they'll look to the draft to try to get a quarterback of the future. But it's 3 times the size of his deal that he signed to be with the Cowboys last year, and he's got a chance to start, so it makes sense.
Where do you think the Cowboys look, veteran-wise, or do you ride with Garrett Gilbert and some of the young guys?
It's a really great question. I think it's going to come down to cost. I said this on Twitter a little while ago. I think, Andy Dalton was well worth what they paid for him. That was a textbook case of what an experienced backup quarterback could do for you. Yeah, I know the team wasn't great, but he was forced into a situation where he had to play the majority of the season. He won them 4 games. You're not always going to lose your starting quarterback for the season. Sometimes teams have to make do without their starter for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And in that situation, having Andy Dalton would have been amazing. So I really hope the Cowboys consider doing that. Off the top of my head, Alex Smith is a guy, for the right price that I would love to have here as a backup. I think, he's still looking for an opportunity to start, but if he doesn't get that, he's exactly the same type of veteran, capable quarterback of Andy Dalton. I think that could make a lot of sense. I won't be surprised if they roll with Garrett Gilbert and Ben DiNucci just because of their cap constraints. And, they've got a lot of holes to fill and not a lot of money to do it with. But if they can find room for a deal like that makes sense. Again, Andy only cost them $3 million last year. If they can make something similar work with a veteran, I think you got to do it because we saw just last season how useful it is having a capable guy behind your starter.
David, as Smokey mentioned there, Cheeto Awuzie is headed elsewhere. He'll be going to the Cincinnati Bengals, and I know that in one of your tweets talking about him, you posted that 2017 draft class, which, did you wince a little bit when you posted that pick and kind of looked over the names?
You know, it's funny because on one hand, I think it's arguably the worst Cowboys draft class of the last decade or so. Taco Charlton is obviously the big miss, especially when you consider that you could have gotten TJ Watt. I feel a little bit mean though, insinuating like I don't think of Cheeto Awuzie as a bust. You know, right. He came here as the 60th overall pick. He started all 4 seasons he was here. He started 42 career games. No, he wasn't the playmaker that you wanted him to be. Obviously, he didn't get a second deal, so that's disappointing. But I view him and Jordan Lewis very similarly in the sense that they didn't quite live up to the potential, but I wouldn't call them busts either. And that's a weird spot to be in. But, I mean, it's for sure true that, obviously the Cowboys tried to revamp their defense in 2017 by picking Taco, Cheeto, and Jordan. Those were their first 3 picks, all defensive players. And none of them really panned out into a bona fide, star player. And, that's one thing the Cowboys have done really, really well is draft. They're typically good for finding at least one Pro Bowler in every draft class. And they whiffed on that in 2017. And I think that's a big part of the reason why their defensive depth chart looks so thin right now.
Yeah, Noah Brown's really the only one, unless they bring back Jordan Lewis, that will be back next year.
Yeah, I won't, we'll see. Obviously, free agency technically hasn't even opened. Obviously, it's still the legal tampering period. I won't be surprised if Jordan winds up back here. I think that's a perfect mix of, I don't know how robust his market is going to be, and obviously the Cowboys have a need to bring in at least one veteran cornerback. So, like I said, I don't know for sure, but that wouldn't surprise me. But either way, you're talking about, I think there were 8 or 9 guys drafted that year, and if you only have 2 of them back 4 years later, that's not a great return on your investment.
LP Ladouceur was about as reliable as anybody could be. You don't know the long snapper until they sail one over somebody's head, which happens on occasion. But he's 40. It's not like there's a lot of money that you give a long snapper. He was making over $1 million a year. Is this a salary cap that can save $200,000 or $300,000? What's the decision there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and further, I'm not I know the news came out that they were signing a new long snapper. I don't think that's finalized, so I'm curious.
Okay.
I'm curious to see where they go with that, but it doesn't sound like LP is going to be back. I think that much is probably fair to say. I think it's a combination of trying to save money against the cap, and then obviously what do coaches do when they need new players? Typically they go with guys they're familiar with. If the Cowboys do sign that long snapper, it's a guy that worked with John Fossil. And you see stuff like that around this time of year all the time. I saw, Urban Meyer just signed Carlos Hyde, who was obviously a star for him at Ohio State. Coaches love to fall back on guys they're familiar with. It is interesting, when you're talking about a long snapper, you don't think of the cap implications as being all that significant. So that does make it kind of curious.
David, thank you. Craig?
I was going to ask real quick, CJ Goodwin re-signing. David, is that a move that is going to be widely celebrated around the Star facility just because of the story and the hard work?
It should be. And, hey, I'm not telling anybody that they need to approve of the way the Cowboys handle free agency. I think we would all agree they could probably benefit from being a little more aggressive. They're kind of famous for being slow at this time of year, but that's a damn good signing as far as I'm concerned. No, CJ Goodwin's not going to be the reason why you win a Super Bowl, but he's one of the better core special teamers in the NFL, and he showed his value countless times last year as a gunner, as a special teams tackler. Obviously, the big highlight moment was the fake punt that he had against Pittsburgh in the game where they almost upset the only undefeated team in the league. He's a classic coach's player in terms of doing everything right in that facet of the game. And like I said, he's not going to turn their defense around, but it is an incredibly valuable guy to have at a very low cost. And I was really happy to see that. It's a really cool story for CJ.
David, thanks for being patient with us today. Appreciate your time as always. Things are moving. We appreciate it.
No worries, y'all. Thanks.
David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. Coming up next, Michelle Vopel from ESPN on the women's tournament that was released last night. Baylor, a number 2 seed, same region as UConn, Tennessee, Michigan, a couple of others. We'll discuss that with Michelle. Also, A&M number 2 seed after they were pretty dominant most of the year, won the SEC. I wonder what that's about, and we'll ask her.
Charlie Collier's going to be a WNBA top pick.
Yeah, God. I got to ask her about that. I will ask her about that. We have to ask her. Make sure I do. Then John McClain will discuss Tyrod Taylor. What an hour. What a show. Hope you've enjoyed it. We're not done. This is SicEm365 Radio.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
During the President's Day event, Allen Samuels has special pricing on a new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with values up to $3,250 or 0% for 72 months, plus $1,000 in combo cash. Or a 2021 Jeep Cherokee. The new Latitude Plus has up to $6,000 in total values or 0% interest for 72 months and $1,250 in combo cash. Allen Samuels award-winning customer service. The best place to find your next SUV. Located at 201 West Loop 340. Allen Samuels is your friend in the car business.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The SicEm365 Radio Live Guest VIP Hotline is sponsored by Stonewood Dental. We are all in this together.
All right, here we go. Women's tournament was released last night, yesterday evening. Baylor, a number 2 seed, along with in the same region with UConn. A&M, a number 2 seed, among others. And Michelle Vopel, elite, high-level college basketball writer for women's basketball, among other things as well, from ESPN, joins us on SicEm365 Radio. What surprised you, Michelle? Was it A&M being a number 2 seed? Was it UConn not the number 1 overall seed? Anything in particular?
I was a little bit surprised with A&M, but based on what it looked like the committee did was they really put a lot of weight on the conference tournaments. There's been years when that hasn't been the case. As you know, because you've been following this a long time, the committee some years has some really different things that they emphasize more than others. And this year it seemed like conference tournament meant a lot to them. With A&M losing to Georgia in the conference semifinals in the SEC, that seemed to carry a little weight with the committee. And then by the same token, North Carolina State winning the ACC tournament, bumped them into that number one seed, I think.
What do you think about Baylor and UConn in the same region?
I'm not crazy about it from the perspective of I think those are both two really good potential Final Four teams. But by the same token, we're in a season where you really could legitimately look at 7 or 8 teams and say they had a chance to win the national championship. And that isn't always the case. Sometimes that number is much lower than that. So I can see where they were in a position. You look at all the other regionals and say, is there any place else you'd put Baylor, anybody you would swap Baylor with, where you'd feel, like, oh, okay, this maybe makes more sense. And I'm not 100% sure there is. So, in some ways that explains it too, is just that there really were, honestly, there were 8 strong teams in terms of the top, the number 1 seeds and the number 2 seeds.
Michelle, maybe part of the reason why is what you just explained, but does this seem to you at all like the Lady Bears are kind of almost flying under the radar a little bit compared to maybe most years when they're firmly being talked about as, one of the top 2 to 3 teams?
I do think a little bit, and part of that I think is and this is not their fault at all. I mean, they're almost going through the same thing that sometimes Connecticut does. The only difference is Connecticut never doesn't get attention. But it's taken for granted that they're going to win the Big 12. Mm-hmm. They have dominated it now for a decade, which is, it's such a long time to do that in sports. And so I think that's part of it, is that the Big 12 is almost seen from the outside as a little bit of a foregone conclusion. And then the fact that they didn't have the matchup this year with UConn, which is a game, and I know we've talked about that before, a game everybody looks forward to. So, then they had the loss to Iowa State, which really nothing against Iowa State, but you have to talk about the fact that was right after they're coming back from COVID. And after that, it was just right back to business for Baylor. So I think you're right. They may be a little under the radar, but they don't. It's weird. They don't feel under the radar to me. I feel like, and obviously because I watch all of their games, I just feel like they've been getting better and better and better and better. And so I feel like they go into San Antonio with probably as good a chance to win it as almost anybody.
Yeah, I think the emergence of Queen Egbo, I've been on a couple of the opportunities to talk around some networks, fortunately, about the Lady Bears. And I just think that her emergence and how confident she's playing right now gives them more of a chance. I didn't think they were a number 1 seed at all this year, but I do now think that they're dangerous, no question.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. She plays in such a good tandem with Melissa Smith. They really play well off of each other. I think, the way that Queen played in the Big 12 tournament was, showed just how good of a player she was and how well she plays with Melissa. And then, of course, Dejanay Carrington's been really big for them. She comes off the bench, but she's their best 3-point shooter. They're not a good – well, I don't want to say they're not a good – they don't shoot a lot of threes, let's put it that way. But she brings them that threat. She's a very, very elite defender. And, she's somebody who has a lot of experience. So I think Dejanay and Queen, like you said, have just added to the strength of this team that we knew coming in, some of the strengths were, but I don't know that we knew how good those 2 players would be at this point in the season. And they really have become critical factors for Baylor.
Since it will be early in the tournament, Gino Auriemma being gone isn't really going to affect UConn for a week, is it?
I don't think they're going to lose. No. I think the one thing, obviously it may affect is just it's a little different dynamic, but in other ways maybe it isn't that much because Chris Daly's been there just as long. They've been there. They went there together in 1985-86, so she's been as much a part of everything that's happened at UConn as Gino has, and she has been in the position of having to be their head coach before. She's done that 10 times, when he's had some medical issues and illness. So yeah, I think it'll be a little different, obviously, for them, but because they have such an experienced coaching staff, I don't think it would affect it quite as much as it might affect other teams that wouldn't have somebody with so much experience to step in and be the head coach.
How do you see the Aggies stacking up in this year's tournament?
They're a really good team. I think the one thing that you wonder about at times is, do they have a go-to scorer? It's very different, obviously, from the last 3 years when they had this definition of a go-to scorer with Kennedy Carter. They have a lot of people who have stepped up at different times during the season. They have probably as much guard depth as anybody and more than most. And I think the concern is that rotations get shorter in the postseason. We always see that. And do they have that go-to person that they can count on, or will they need that? That would be one thing I would be a little concerned about, but I also think they're capable definitely of coming out of that region. I think, if it ends up being an NC State, Texas A&M, Elite Eight final, that's a game you could see either one of them winning, but you definitely could see Texas A&M winning that. So I think we could see, who knows? We could have in San Antonio. It's certainly not out of question. You could have Baylor and Texas A&M meeting in a national semifinal in San Antonio.
Wow. Yeah. And Gary Blair and Kim Mulkey, who go back to Louisiana Tech days. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Okay. And then that upset win in 11, right? 2011 up in Dallas in the regional final when Gary Blair won it all. Yeah. Michelle, thank you. You do a great job with it. Enjoy. Are you flying into San Antonio this weekend or what?
I'm actually coming for the Sweet 16. So I'll be there, Sweet 16 on. So.
I think that's what a lot of people are doing. Thank you for your time. Yeah. Michelle Volpel from ESPN covers women's basketball, the WNBA, and much more.
Charlie Collier.
Oh, Michelle, are you still there?
Hold on.
I have to ask. I know John McClain, and we can talk about Tyrod Taylor. Paul, Craig, thank you.
Do you want to just do this on the air?
Yeah, let's see if she'll answer. This is almost like a radio station in the morning. Hope she
She's mad I hung up.
Yeah.
I got that trigger finger now.
Did you call the cell number?
I called the one I just called.
Okay.
Oh. She already went on to her next thing.
Yep. Sounds like it.
Michelle?
No.
Oh, you hung up? I will ask her. I'll text her to tell me about. Maybe leave a voicemail. See if I can get her to explain that.
How do we send you a voice memo if we're going to do that?
When we come back, John McClain, Houston Chronicle, Texans side, Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton, of course, headed to Chicago. That's what we've talked about. We've kind of tried to cover it all. Len Elmer, John Feinstein, Mac Rhodes from Indianapolis, and more. This is SicEm365 Radio.
The First National Bank of Central Texas, 5 locations right here at home. Waco, Woodward, Hewitt, China Spring, Martin, Hillsboro. Familiar faces making local decisions. Here to help you, your family, and your business, whether it's great times or tough times. All of us need a bank we can count on. Great people with great technology dedicated to their customers and helping our area grow. Safe banking in person or use their online and mobile apps and convenient drive-through and ATMs at all locations. They've got instant issued debit cards. Look, if you've ever been with a national bank and you've lost your debit card, if you had a fraud alert, getting a debit card like, we'll ship it to you overnight or 2 days. Yeah, you don't have to wait 2 days. You have to wait from the time you lost it to the time you can get to one of those 5 branches. Tell them you need a new one. Boop, 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 boop. New debit card right in your wallet on with your day. And the lobbies are open now at all the locations after a year of being closed. So if you need to go into the lobby and talk to somebody, you can do that, obviously, following protocols and all of that. So the First National Bank of Central Texas, 5 locations right here at home. Waco, Woodward, Hewitt, China Spring, Martin, and Hillsboro.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay delicious too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
If for qualified buyer with 4,009 3.9% DTL, accuracy dealer details. The 22-year anniversary sales event is going on now at Richard Carr. Make your refund or stimulus even bigger when you add savings like a 2019 Buick Encore for only $169 a month, a 2018 GMC Terrain for only $208 a month, a 2018 GMC Sierra for only $374 a month. 100% credit approval is always our goal. Get here now and save during the anniversary sales event going on now at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more. You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Learning to navigate life in the COVID-19 world has been a struggle, and where and how to get tested has been one of the biggest challenges. Impact Health Labs has your answer. If you need mass testing for your office, church, dormitory, or school, Impact Health Labs is who to call. They will come to you, conduct the testing at your location, and have the test back within 24 hours. Most major insurance accepted, meaning your out-of-pocket cost is low. So no more waiting by the phone for days to find out the results. Impact Health Labs was founded by 3 Army licensed and credentialed medical professionals. They believe in accuracy, efficiency, and doing the job right. Call 254-744-6233 to set up your group screening today. Impact Health Labs, on-site, prompt, and accurate, taking COVID-19 head-on. Again, that number is 254-744-6233 or online at impacthealthlabs.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John Feinstein, Len Elmore, Mac Rhodes, David Woods, Terry Gamble, David Hellman, Michelle Vopel, and now Hall of Fame writer John McClain. SicEm365 Radio. John, thanks for being patient with us. Tyrod Taylor, is this the insurance policy that Deshaun Watson will be somewhere else?
Well, it's not really insurance. We know he's going to be somewhere else. Even if they played hardball, he'd miss most of the season. So they need more than one quarterback. And as I told my station in Houston today, by signing Tyrod Taylor, that means they're going to draft a franchise quarterback, because the last 2 places he's been, Cleveland and the Chargers, he's been supposed to be the starter and replaced by the high draft choice, and both Baker Mayfield and Justin Herbert worked out great. I watched Hard Knocks last year, and he got a lot of attention because he had been signed to be the veteran quarterback
And the coach, Anthony Lynn, kept saying over and over he was the starter, and he did start the season. Remember, he had a rib injury, and a doctor stuck a needle in too far and punctured a lung, so they had to start their rookie, Justin Herbert, before they wanted to, and the rest is football history. He ended up being NFL Rookie of the Year, so he's coming here, and what I hope this means is they make a trade with the Jets, possibly the Dolphins, but maybe the Jets, so they could get Zach Wilson from BYU, who most think is the second best prospect behind Trevor Lawrence.
John, I noticed that most of their deals, though, the free agency so far have been pretty short-term things with the Texans.
Absolutely, Paul. 1 and 2 year deals. It's very smart. You don't want to spend big bucks on a player now because you're going to be terrible next season. There's going to be more rebuilding in 2022 when they will have all of their picks and probably a really high pick, maybe first overall. And if they trade Watson, they're going to have multiple picks in that trade in 2022 as well as 2021. So they're signing guys who have to prove themselves to get another contract or they'll be gone. As of right now, Nick Caserio has signed 12 players, has agreed to them since yesterday. And then he's signed 3 who were cut by other teams, and he's made 2 trades for veterans. And so he is churning this roster. I told people originally that I thought by the time they cut down to 53, over half the roster would be gone. Now I'm thinking, man, it might be 60% that they're turning over. The Texans are trying to get competition, help for their special teams, which were already good, and competent backups that might push the starters. And I like what they're doing. Of those 12, I'm guessing probably 7 might make the team, maybe less. But I like the fact that Nick Caserio, the new general manager, is being very aggressive. Their new quarterback coach, Pep Hamilton, coached Tyrod Taylor last year with the Rams. David McCulley was with him in Buffalo when Taylor started 3 years in a row, played really well, but hasn't been a regular starter since. And then Nick Caserio, as New England's personnel director, saw him twice a season in those 3 years with Buffalo. So I like the signing. I was kind of hoping for Andy Dalton, but he got too good of a deal to go to the Bears. But the Texans will need another veteran.
John, you brought up Caserio's old stopping grounds of New England. What have you made of their sort of uncharacteristic little run in free agency so far?
They're winning March, that's for sure. They're used to winning in January, now in February. Now they're winning in March for the first time. Somebody ran a tweet earlier that I retweeted that listed the teams that had spent the most guaranteed money in free agency, beginning with the Jaguars, and I think now the Patriots have passed them. And every team of the top 5, I think 3 didn't make the playoffs, 2 went out in the first round. It's amazing. Teams that create so much interest in March generally are not creating interest in January.
So, yeah, and is this just Bill Belichick? This is the opposite of what he's done forever, right?
Well, he didn't have the money then like he does now. And he was 7-9, and they're picking higher than any time since 2008. And they've been picking low. They've blown a lot of their draft choices. They've done better in the middle round and with middle to low free agents than they have with the big ones. They hadn't spent any big money on a free agent since Stephon Gilmore from Buffalo, which turned out to be a great move. But now, man, with 2 tight ends, Johnny Smith, Hayden Hurst, and a lot of these other guys, people are going to be keeping a close eye on them because of what they did in free agency. And they get some players who come back from the opt-out, including 2 defensive starters. So people up there are fired up. But based on what Cam Newton did last year, if I was a Patriots fan, I wouldn't be real fired up about having Cam Newton coming back and running for more touchdowns than he threw.
Yeah, I think the Patriots fans are telling themselves he's got more weapons around him now, so it's going to make the difference. That's what I've seen at least. But, yeah, I'm with you, though, John.
It might be that, and he didn't have a lot of weapons, just like Tom Brady. One of the reasons he wanted out, he didn't have weapons. In his last season there, he was seen screaming at those guys all the time because they were running the wrong routes and not playing hard like they should, maybe Cam Newton will get the benefit of that. But somebody asked me, Dave, you pick the Dolphins or the Patriots to go to the playoffs. And I said, well, I'm picking the Dolphins over the Patriots, but maybe all three of those teams from the AFC East will make it.
John, what about Andy Dalton to the Bears?
A lot of Bears fans are upset. They got all fired up about Russell Wilson, which was not practical at all. They weren't going to get Russell Wilson. 2 weeks ago, they were saying they had this great offer for Deshaun Watson. They picked 20th in the first round. They're not going to get a great quarterback. Andy played pretty well for the Cowboys till he got hurt after a slow start. And I think he's fine, but he is strictly a placeholder till they can find their franchise quarterback.
I know you got to go, and we're out near it as well. NCAA, this is from John Rothstein, that there were 5 positive COVID-19 tests out of 2,300 tests among Tier 1, 2, and 3 personnel. That does not mean anything with players or coaches, but also a note from a writer that nobody that was outside the bubble waiting for a call, I think it would have been Louisville, nobody got a call. The time has come and gone for teams to opt out or be told to out. So your thoughts about Scott Drew and Baylor?
Well, of course, I keep reading these things out of Indianapolis about getting Scott Drew to come back or Brad Stevens come back to Indiana, and I don't know, but I wouldn't imagine Scott would do that. He's got too much of a great thing going in Waco. And I feel great about the women. It's amazing to me, their record, and they're as low as they are in the rankings. What gets me about the guys, and I take back what I said last week on the Big 12, that with Jared Butler being the writers' MVP player of the year, that shows they know more than the coaches. Well, they don't anymore. Illinois, number 2. I guess they forgot Baylor beat Illinois and has a better winning percentage than Illinois. But I kind of like seeing Baylor down. That should motivate Baylor even more to be not first or second, and the women as well. And they both got a chance to win a national championship. They would have last year too, but I can't remember the last time I was so fired up about both of them at the same time. Sic'em.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. John McClain, so great to have him. He's like someone we could go on for hours, just his stories about the NFL. Paul's 5 at 5:55 here momentarily. So, again, that note, that's a big note that nobody has the deadline has come. Matt Norlander, the 6 p.m. deadline for replacement teams has come and gone. Louisville has not been contacted per a source, meaning the bracket is now locked. NCAA will not be putting out a statement. This will be official tomorrow when Dan Gavitt briefs the media on a Zoom call. It's a big deal because you never know. It could have been like one of those, all over the place, right? Yeah. And so that means Virginia, as you mentioned, that means they're clear.
Yeah, everybody's good to go. And I guess if you're one of those teams that was kind of waiting for a phone call, you're just like, all right, well, we can clear out the locker now, I guess, if you were one of those standby teams. But, yeah, I mean, that's good news. You know, we'll see as they get, a week or two into this thing, kind of what it's like. But there will be more people leaving by the day. So, they've done all they can, and hopefully just the players and the coaches themselves are smart because, as we know, all it takes is one person and, a few hours, and next thing you know, there's 7 people sick. So, yeah, hopefully it stays that way.
By the way, Armstrong Sims has run the mothership and has really almost now for over several weeks has pretty much been on his own. Man, we love you, man. We love what you do. What you do is quality. It's incredible, and it's just not ever taken for granted. So we appreciate you weaving in and out of all the different changes in the lineup as well. Paul Catalina, David Smoak, and Craig Smoak, again, we'll be back at it tomorrow at 3, and Drake and J.D. from 11 to 2. But, Paul, tomorrow we've got Grant McCaslin of North Texas, former Baylor Scott Drew assistant, and Dick Weiss from the New York Times. He'll join us. There's one other pretty nice guest tomorrow. Tony Barnhart he's a elite college football writer. He'll join us. And remember Tim Maloney, former Baylor assistant coach out of the Northeast? He's going to join us tomorrow, Thursday. He continues to stay in touch, of course, with his former staff under Scott Drew, and he has a lot of stories about the coaches we'll share with him on Thursday. Time for Paul's 5 at 5:55.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
All right, top 5 March Madness icons. And look, there are some people in here that, you may see this on Twitter later and you say, what about Steph Curry? What about Kemba Walker? I picked guys who specifically did not have big-time NBA careers. They might have had NBA careers, but it wasn't, look, Steph Curry, he was at Davidson, and that was great and all, but, now he's maybe he's the greatest three-point shooter that's ever lived in the history of the NBA. So, yeah, he gets talked about. I wanted to pick some guys that we only really talk about when it comes to March Madness. So, number 5.
I've got a name in mind right away.
Yeah, number 5. Yeah, we'll see. Number 5, Ali Faroukmanesh from Northern Iowa.
Who?
Ali Faroukmanesh.
I remember that.
Yeah. He beat Kansas, if you'll remember.
Didn't Northern Iowa have an amazing game with A&M a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that went forever? Is he a part of that too? All right.
Yeah. There you go. Number 4, and this one won a title for the Jayhawks. Mario Chalmers against Memphis. Had to get drunk at 3 and did. And then, of course, Memphis had to miss all those free throws. Also, I will stand as a sports talk show host, one of the very few predictions about how a game would go specifically, when asked by a caller in my life, was this game. We had a caller in the morning. I was doing the morning show with Vince Erickson, and a caller called up and said, hey, what do you think about Kansas and Memphis? How do you think the game's going to go? I said, look, I like Kansas. I don't think Memphis can hit free throws. I think that it's going to come down to it. And holy cow, if that did not completely come true.
I still think that haunts Calipari, even with the Kentucky championship to this day.
That was like 12 years ago. I have not come close on a prediction since that day. Number 3, Bo Kimball. And this one was really emotional because of the Hank Gathers thing at Loyola. But Bo Kimball, I always think about him. I was very young when this happened, but I still remember it. It was one of those things that even in my middle school or elementary school where I was, people were talking about Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers. It was one of those things like they stopped and turned on the news to watch the highlights, kind of a thing. Number 2, and this is maybe one of the most iconic moments in the history of March Madness, Lorenzo Charles from NC State. You see him there hugging Jim Valvano.
He is the one.
Mm-hmm.
Broke my sports heart.
He's this is the invention of March Madness, and he would be number 1 if not for who this next person is. And the only reason I flipped them, number 1, Bryce Drew. And here's the deal. I'm going to connect some dots here. If Bryce Drew doesn't make this shot, then Valpo, as great of a coach as Homer Drew was, maybe does not get that kind of bump where people start thinking about Valpo. Then everything that happens at Baylor happens. Maybe Scott Drew's not on the radar as much because of people not thinking about Valpo, even with that search committee. Maybe they're not. So that moment right there meant a lot not only to Valpo, but to Baylor basketball, which is why, considering what platform we're on, I picked him number 1. And I know it's a lot of, conspiracy theory type strains there, but that's why I put him number 1.
He's got to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Lorenzo Charles, honestly, kind of invented the March Madness.
Well, the 83 game against Phi Slamma Jamma, and that truly broke my heart. Because weren't they unbeaten? I believe they were unbeaten. Olajuwon and that team, they were so good. Michael Young and Clyde Drexler? Oh, my God, they were so good. And that was just a fun team. Plus, Guy B. Lewis, he was from Arp, Texas, I believe. Arp, Texas. And so I had gotten the chance to interview him that year. That's what, to me, created Martin. Then 85, Villanova stunned Georgetown, the big bad wolf.
Yeah. Craig, who was on your list that I did I get him or no?
No, it's just a name that always will register with me with March Madness, and that's God Shamgod.
God Shamgod, yeah.
God Shamgod took
what?
Providence took them to the Elite Eight, and I remember what a weird name that was for someone, God Shamgod, and I just remember he lit that tournament up. And, yeah, they got all the way to the Elite Eight. Providence did. So, yeah, that's a name that I will always remember.
Yeah. Thanks to great stuff. I love that list. John Feinstein, Len Elmore. I saw David Carter said that hour with Feinstein and Elmore might have been as good as you've had. They were fantastic. Mac Rhodes, lots of news out of Indianapolis. David Woods, Terry Gamble on his retirement, former Midway coach. David Hellman, Michelle Vopel, John McLean. I mentioned Armstrong. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. Thank you for listening. Our sponsors are amazing. We are closing in. April the 6th of this year will be 1 year of something that at this time a year ago was not even a thing. The website was rolling. Brian and Ashley and Colton, what they had done. A lot of you that listen or watch us. It's amazing. Here we are. The day after Craig's birthday. David Smoak, SicEm365 Radio, and have a great night.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has been proudly serving Texans across the state for over 60 years. Call 254-772-8090 to find an agent who will provide a free review of your auto, home, and life coverage.
March marks 22 years for Richard Carr Motors. Celebrate with big savings going on now during the anniversary